Hello, hello, everyone. Happy full moon and
Oh,
almost solstice.
oh, that's true. Almost solstice, yeah.
That's
Well,
right.
it's summer solstice for us and winter for you because that's how the world works. That's how
Yeah,
Earth
well,
works.
how globes work, which raises an
Well, yes.
interesting point of the
Hmm.
our friends in the Flurf watching community inform us the final experiment is
Oh,
currently underway. The participants have arrived in Antarctica and they're doing the thing. They're staring into the sun for 24 hours apparently.
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think so. Well, what I heard, I was watching MC Toon because I like MC Toon. I find him to be very reasonable and sort of very, very good. So apparently Jaronism, or Jaron as he's called, has actually done a setup where he's taking pictures every like doing a time lapse and rotating the camera so it will follow the sun to make sure that he's taking a picture every so often. Apparently, MC Toon helped him a little with the setup and what he'd need and all that kind of stuff. So he's helping them sort of find out the truth, which I love, like it's no reason to laugh at them and stuff, but yeah, so he's apparently, testing it for himself and, we'll see what excuses come out. But I think it's really telling who isn't going.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the telling part. There's only like 3 flat earthers going. A bunch were invited, but it's only 3 that are going. And um, yeah, it's really interesting because one of the people that refused to go was our friend Dean Odell, right? The guy that we did a debate section on for Flat Earth, who's the inter-Christian argument.
Mm-hmm. Greg Luck's
Um,
nemesis.
yeah, Greg Locke's nemesis, who they mentioned they should go to Antarctica together and see whether there's a 24-hour sun in order to prove or disprove flat Earth. But when the opportunity, he says, "Nah, I'm out. I'm not interested."
I
It's
don't
pretty
need
telling.
facts, fam. I've got faith. I've got where is it? Where is it? I've got
Yeah.
a big old book.
You've got very fancy earrings. No, I love them. That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's but mind you, I will say in his defense that actually I thought about this. Whitsett's going instead. Austin Whitsett, who I've debated, and he's going instead. And yeah, it's so maybe he'll just because Whitsett was at the church when he debated Flat Earth, so maybe he just
Really?
trusts with to yeah tell him the truth, which I'm not sure I would trust him to tell me the truth, but maybe I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. It's pretty sus. But
Hmm.
I was noticing earlier today, I as I was taking my son back to his other parents, right now we're having a lunar standstill, which means here in the
Okay, yeah.
northern hemisphere, the moon gets very, very close to zenith. They call it a standstill
Hmm.
because it seems like it's just in the sky all night long, like more so than
Yep.
usual because it's way north and it gets close to zenith. And it occurred to me that as big and beautiful as the moon is here, while they have the 24-hour sun in Antarctica, one thing they don't have is the moon. And when there's a full moon, how?
Yeah.
How? Well, because the Earth is in the way. It doesn't make any
Mhm.
sense for flat earthers, but
No,
to
it
us, it's
doesn't.
just
Yeah.
obvious.
Yeah. On ours, it's very easily explained, and it's incredible the ease at which it's explained. I don't know. It's kind of it's weird that all of these flat earthers who have been saying for ages there's no 24-hour sun because that can't exist on a flat Earth have now pivoted to, well, even if there is a 24-hour sun, it changes nothing. It's sort of like, but but
Any excuse?
and well, I mentioned this the other day. It was interesting because I missed this last week, and I do apologize. Totally my fault. I had a debate on with Nathan Thompson, which it turned into a garbage fire, of course, and it was it
Of
was very
course.
disappointing, of course, because that's what he's after. But I guess I didn't have to play into it. But anyway, yeah, it's so um odd that because I missed it last week because of that debate, and in that debate they accused us of, oh well, if there isn't a 24-hour sun, you guys will just make up an excuse. And it's like, no, absolutely not. No, that is an absolute killer for a globe model like that. At Antarctica, you should see in the summer solstice at 24 hours that there is no excuse we can make up to account for that. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It's yeah.
It'd be a lot like if we did see a 24-hour sun anywhere in the world, because it's kind of what we should see. It'd get so dim and distant, we might still have nighttime, but we'd be able to see where the damn thing is.
Yeah.
Zoom into it with a Nikon T1000. Yeah. Bring it back over the horizon.
Nikon P1000. Oh dear.
Oh, they get a bad rap. They are actually fantastic cameras if you know how to use a camera.
Yeah.
Details.
Yeah. So the people making up excuses are not us, but it's fantastic to be here. I've been looking forward to it for a couple of weeks now. It's definitely going to be better than debating Nathan Thompson. I can't stress how terrible that was. The guy's an absolute jerk. He's a jerk. He prides himself on it. Yeah.
Well, hopefully we managed to bring up the spirits, the holiday spirits, you might say, because we try to have fun with these things, as well as be educational and informative, and present the big ideas. For instance, whether there's God or no God. That's a pretty damn big idea.
Yeah. Well, I have never heard of this guy, Taunton.
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce it? Taunton? I've never heard of him before.
Yeah, me either. Larry Taunton, I believe. He actually set up a lot of Hitchens' debates with other people. He was sort of like the Don King of the debate world. But for some reason, as we'll see in the video, as many people know, Hitchens passed away from cancer. He's bald in this video because he was between rounds of treatment. And I don't know, he felt like he wanted to get out there, and Larry was like, well, screw it, I'll take you on. Now, that's not to say Larry is like a neutral party the way James over at MDD is. Larry runs a Christian think tank based in Alabama or Florida. I forget which.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're both the same. They're both the same place. Like, let's face it, they're both the same place. The only thing I know that is in common between Florida and Alabama is they both had a dinosaur adventure land in them. That's the only thing that I know about the two places. Yes, no, Alex, you're absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely. And quite frankly, I'd rather stick my face in a hornet's nest. But the Christians and stuff have been very gun shy lately about debating. So they're making big, bold statements about debate, but they always just never can get into the debate, sphere kind of thing. So I'm having trouble. So if you do know any Christians that want to debate, definitely say, hey, Mark Reed's looking to. I don't know. It's very weird. I've had like multiple people accuse me of not debating them, and then when I email them, they're like, nah, I'm okay. I'm all right. Thanks.
Yeah, they just want to talk big on camera.
Yeah. So take that what you will. So it's
You're scary. I mean, you've filled in for the great Matt Dillahunty. People are intimidated.
Right place, right time. That wasn't one really. I don't know. So yeah.
If only you got Matt Dillahunty's paychecks. I mean, I know he doesn't get that much, but like it's an honorarium, and it's more than us amateurs get, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I enjoy doing debate, so I will do it because I enjoy it. So
Oh, same.
yeah.
I'm actually feeling the itch a bit more lately. I blame Chris from the Daily Atheist. What is it? Daily Atheist Media Network now.
Oh,
He, he,
I
he,
love saying like this damn show, you know, like
that's
that
right.
just
That's right.
that makes me happy. Click that damn like button. It's a daily atheist morning show, so it's the damn show.
Yeah.
I do like it. Yeah.
Normally I make fun of Americans for all the acronyms and initialisms, but that one is enjoyable. But
That one's cool. Yeah.
he fosters a shall we say lively chat, and it's really got me
Hmm.
itching to debate again. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
time and place and all that. But yeah,
Anarchic Talk.
anarchic.
It's a
It's
damn good show. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, and Chris
oh
is a
goodness.
really nice guy as well. Like he's really nice, very cheeky kind of guy. You know, I like a cheeky atheist show. I gotta say. But you know, I mean, I've talked to some of the people in there. They're a bit wild, but you know, they're all right. It's totally fine. You know, it's no blessed be he. You know, um, it, they're fine.
Most of them. There's one particular fellow who we won't run into him here unless he comes up with another sock account, because he's aggressively hateful, and he's just a troll. He just wants the attention. No,
She.
this fella named Pastor Dean from
Oh,
Chris's channel.
okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
He's not aggressively hateful. Just she's not able to
She's a
stop
little
preaching.
obnoxious. Yeah,
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 yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
So it's a trip. So
Oh,
there's
yeah.
pluses and minuses.
And he runs these commercials, your right, left-handed Jedi. That Outer Boy commercial is hilarious, like absolutely hilarious.
There's
Have
quite
you
a few.
seen?
I like
Yeah.
the conspiracy win is my favorite. In fact,
Uh-huh.
Chris was just doing a member stream this morning before Bree's show, Life
Okay.
from the Hive,
Yeah.
and he was asking people's opinions on various features of the show, like the framing and having the chat here and the puppos there and all this, because he really wants to have a really nice looking show, as
Yeah.
opposed
Yeah.
to me doing my best over here with StreamYard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I mentioned I really like the commercials. In fact, I'm envious of the fact that he can just put something on and go get a coffee. And I'm like, I mean, I've only run out of coffee on a show once, because I try to refill before a show starts. But
Mm-hmm.
it's nice to be able to just hit a thing and just go do something and come back in a couple of minutes. C'est la vie. Anyway, I do digress.
Yeah.
But one more digression, one more tangent before we get started. It is, in fact, another holy day of sorts for those of us here in the atheist community, because our goddess, the supreme ruler of all of us,
yeah.
it is her natal day, her natalversary, her soulversary, if you will. So if you happen to run into Maya later, maybe she'll drop by this chat. She has been known to from time to time.
Yeah.
But if you see her Bad Science Sunday tomorrow, make sure to wish her a happy 27th.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. I guess that's probably enough preamble. Shall we do this thing?
Yeah. Let's go. I could really stand to hear a bit of Hitch going at
Hell
it.
yeah. Yes,
I don't know what this
Hitchens.
Taunton guy is like, but yeah, it should be interesting.
All righty, here we go.
What's with the music? It's chipper, isn't it? Like
it is. I want a boogie. I haven't watched this. It starts with one of those things where they do like a news report about the legendary debaters coming to our tiny little town kind of thing. And they do a quick mini interview pre-show with both debaters, and there's probably a musical track over it too. I don't know, but it's a jam though. I dig it. Yay!
Well,
Yeah,
good
and
evening,
Hitch
everyone.
goes right
Welcome
for
to
the
tonight's
chair.
event. This whole event is, by the way, being sponsored by the Fixed Point Foundation. I'm Aaron.
Fixed Point Foundation. That's the
What is that?
That's the think tank that Larry runs.
Oh dear. Okay.
Yeah, adventures. I really should have edited this beforehand to cut out the preamble and other bullshit, but I just weirdly I haven't had the time to save the time. Such is life. But hey, while Mark is Googling, if you want to help me have more time, you can support this channel.
Oh,
you know,
no.
There's a bunch of ways. There's Patreon, there's memberships.
Founder of Christian ministry resigns, admits inappropriate behavior. This is back from 2018.
Oh, that's right.
Larry Taunton, founder and former executive director, resigned after he was confronted about allegations he had inappropriate relationships with 2 young women on the ministry staff.
How Christian.
How, yeah, those are moral values we know Christians adore.
Well, okay. In fairness, if they happen to be his daughters, then it's Christian.
That's true. That's true. If yeah, and then blames them getting him drunk. Yeah,
that's right.
That's really. Oh no! Look at this. Like seriously, the Fixed Point Foundation have drawn international attention for organising debates at famous patrons, atheists such as Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Lennox, which is we're familiar with Lennox, another Christian apologist. I am, to put it bluntly, spent. Taunton wrote in the letter last year to supporters announcing his resignation. Phrasing, like seriously.
No self-awareness.
I know. I know.
Oh, wow.
Like, but seriously, as many of you know, I've maintained a manic pace for several years. Like, really? Like, that is not a reason to go out and get into a relationship with work colleagues when you're married, dude. Like, what kind of a freaking statement is that?
Guys, I've been so busy. I've been dating so many staff. I mean, I've been arranging so many debates.
What the hell?
I just can't keep up with the work anymore.
Many friends and family who expressed concern about an unrelenting travel and work schedule up until now ignored their counts, but the Lord has made it very clear to me I need to properly renew my mental, physical, emotional, spiritual health to be effective in the coming year. It's like I've been working too hard instead of, I've been caught cheating with workplace employees highly inappropriately, and I have to resign because I can no longer pretend to be the moral, outstanding Christian that I'm pretending to be. Like, seriously, dude, what are you talking about? Oh, what an idiot!
You gotta love it.
You know what? And here's the thing: I'm not hassling him because having a relationship that's okay. A, he's got a wife, and B, like, you can't have a relationship with your subordinates in a workplace. You can't, right? It's such a conflict of interest. You have a power dynamic over them. There's no situation where you don't. Like, if you are going to have a relationship, then you've got to adjust the power dynamic. So, they're an equal partner in it, or they're no longer working under you and instead under a thing. We have like occupation sort of rules for a reason. It's
pretty sketchy.
Oh, Alex, you make me so happy, Alex. Just
Alex, where am I not getting messages in here? What's
I don't know. No, I think I had to unblock it, kind of thing. Oh, I'm not sure. No, it's not coming up. That's weird. StreamYard's weird.
It is.
Yeah.
Very peculiar.
Huh.
Well, we're figuring out those oddities. One thing that did come through, Left-Handed Jedi, a member for a freaking year.
Yeah, there you go.
That's really damn cool. And I appreciate the hell out of it. I mean, it still, it floors me when things like that pop up that remind me that, like, we've been doing this for a while now.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like it's been a year. Time has gone by so fast, and I really enjoy this. This is definitely my favorite segment of my channel. Like, there's no comparison. I absolutely adore it. So, yeah, no, I'm really happy to be here, and it certainly hasn't felt like a year. I must admit, though, we've watched so many debates. I have trouble remembering which ones we've covered and which ones we haven't. Like, I don't remember. It's yeah, they sort of flow together a little bit, to be honest with you. But
Yeah.
hey, I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Well, it's been brought to my attention that it might be feasible to do reruns under certain circumstances. Like, as many people have noted,
Maybe.
I've removed quite a bit of content, made it members exclusive or unlisted, so other sources who are linked to it, their links will still work, whatever. Almost all of it is my pre-transition stuff. Like,
right.
I haven't actually done much as far as regular videos this year because I've been working so much, and the ones that have, the only views they got were from haters who were there to leave hate comments. So I'm like,
yeah,
why would I do that? So it's been suggested to me that it might be a good idea to just get rid of the old stuff the way I got rid of my boy clothes. Well, I haven't actually gotten rid of them yet. I'm working on it. I'm trying to find a place to donate them and so forth, but that's neither here nor there. And take some of the stuff that people did like and redo it as my current self.
Yeah, there you go. Actually, that's a really good idea. Yeah, I mean, I can take down the stuff that you're in under pre-trans stuff. That's fine.
Nah, I mean, I've left our old debates up.
Okay.
Debate reviews and yeah, it's complicated.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
I do have it on the roster to redo the Godbots because those were super popular. A lot of people love those, and I have some more ideas.
Okay.
So maybe
you're finding more illogic in God claims.
What?
No.
That never happened. No.
Oh dear.
Oh yeah. So yeah, if you're down for catching that stuff, maybe make sure you're subscribed, because occasionally YouTube likes to unsubscribe people. I know all of you fine folks were already subscribed, but anybody watching in the future, just make sure the button didn't uncheck itself when you weren't looking, perhaps. Or if you're new here, hit it for the first time. Yeah. We try to have a good time over here.
Yeah.
Flint, the host of Voices of Montana, the only statewide radio talk show heard here locally on 7:30 a.m. KYYA. It's interesting. A lot of us kind of wondered, hey, this is a great event. Why did they choose Montana? And then I heard that some of the Fixed Point staff had a chance to come out and see Yellowstone National Park, get here a few days early. And so they got to go out and see a little bit of, as they would describe it, God's country. And
yeah. let's see if we can skip this fella.
Is this guy just basically saying, hey, we wrangled a travel route out of the system here? Like, okay.
Yeah, we don't need an ad for, visit MontanaTourism.com. I mean, Montana is a beautiful state, but
really?
we don't need that.
Okay.
All right, we should be close to the end of the rambling here.
Okay, let's get this monumental occasion underway. Our first topic tonight, are all religions the same? And Mr. Taunton will take the podium to start or starting with the opening statement. I'm sorry. Yes, this opening statement, 10 minutes of opening
Really, that's weird.
For both.
The affirmative is usually the first to go. I don't know. Maybe he wanted to come. I don't know.
Yeah, the topic is, maybe I shouldn't have skipped the whole thing, because it sounds like they're doing multiple points rather than just discussing the title question, God or no God. Like, what are all religions the same is different from the title of the debate. What are we doing?
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll find out.
Well, good evening. It is a delight for me to be here in Montana.
Good evening.
It is my second occasion to be in this state, and I must tell you that I I am delighted to be here because I do love this state. It truly is a gorgeous state, and in Alabama, an Alabama like myself instinctively appreciates a place like this. The topic we are
What is he
debating this evening
doing? Like appealing to the crowd? This is like, hello New York, I love your state. Let's now for our first set. Is he doing a concert? He's doing a concert, isn't he?
I guess. My goodness. Like, my guy, get to you have maybe 10 minutes. He only has 5 minutes of material, so he's got to fluff the crowd or something. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Is whether or not it is preferable to live in a society whose ideals have been chiefly influenced by Christianity, or in a society where atheism holds the greater sway. As we begin, it is perhaps worth noting
that's neither of the questions, either the title or the thing that the moderator dude brought up.
Does anybody have any idea what the proposition of this debate is? Like, any idea?
It's, hey, look, Christopher Hitchens is on stage.
So this is what Christians will appeal to, a cultural claim on the West. Now, you would have to be insane if you were to say, well, Christianity has not had a huge impact on the culture of the West and Western thinking. You'd have to be like, it held sway for so many years. Of course it would, but not necessarily in a good way. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. A lot of the Christian culture is things like sort of the aristocracy held sway for a long time, where you had your place, like, so social what is it, like movement through social classes, social mobility is the word I'm looking for, was not a thing. It was the aristocracy that was chosen by God, and you were chosen by God to be a peasant in the mud. So that was a very Christian idea for a while. Now they would say, hey, but we're all equal under God. That's a Christian idea. Yeah, but it wasn't the idea that held sway. That you treated people equally, but not that they could move their social station. So a lot of thinking from of the West also came from other sources, like, for instance, sort of ancient Greek sources. Like, our entire ideas of democracy really come from Roman and Greek sources. They're very different than them, but that's where they come from. And a lot of the ideas came from the Enlightenment, which was, there were Christians in the Enlightenment, but there were also a lot of deists and atheists. I mean, Voltaire was a atheist. So, this whole idea that they get this monopoly on our culture is just ridiculous. It comes from so many different places.
Yeah, well, yes. Like racism, for example. It's this idea that European philosophy,
yes,
the Greek stuff, very much not Christian. A lot of it is pre-Christian, but to them, Christian equals European. So they get to claim the Greek stuff and ignore the Middle Eastern stuff for some reason. And it's just a way of saying Europe is the best because, screw ancient China, screw the Indus Valley culture, definitely screw Egypt.
Yeah.
Those bastards fought every time Europe tried to invade them.
and India has provided a lot of different thoughts and sort of things, and it hasn't sort of affected the West as much, but I do have to point out that India has successfully run a culture that has had Hinduism, Muslim, and Christian living together in peace for quite some time. Like, there has been all three of those religions without the wars, so they've managed to run a poly-religious society. So the whole idea that all of our thinking comes from religion is 100% not true.
Yeah, but it's all dog whistles with these Christian nationalist assholes. And
Yeah.
he's echoing stuff that the evangelicals who aren't Christian nationalists also believe, so it's like extra undercover. But do understand that when he says Christian civilization is the best civilization, that's what he means. He may as well throw up his fist and say white power.
Yeah.
That I have much in common with my debating partner and friend, Christopher Hitchens. We both love literature and lively conversation. Each of us is descended from a
yeah, you try to associate yourself with Christopher. We're both intelligent like Christopher Hitchens. Pick me, Daddy, pick me.
Oh my.
tradition, and we share a deep concern for the growing threat of radical Islam. We also hold a number of ideals in common. He loathes tyranny and injustice. So do I. He loves
record scratch. My God, you're a Christian. What do you mean? You loathe tyranny and injustice. Your entire thing is divine tyranny. As Christopher himself often says, celestial North Korea. I'm sure Christopher will get to it. I just like, what are you saying?
loves freedom and liberty of conscience. So do I. And he believes in the dignity of the individual. So do I. Even
really?
Look, so I've met so many varying Christians on how they feel about the dignity of the individual. People that would go, oh, well, God made us in our image, so we deserve dignity. And in the next breath say, oh, but you are rags, you know, to the almightiness of the creator kind of thing. And it's like, well, make up your mind. Like you're telling me that, hey, the dignity and the you know, people should be valued and respected, and then tell you you're worthless and rags kind of thing, and you're a sinner and deserve hell. It's a mixed message, really. It really does remind me of love bombing a bit, you know.
Mm-hmm. Jesus
like
loves you.
Well, that's the thing. That's how love bombing works. You basically say, hey, you're a horrible, awful, terrible person, but I'm gonna love you because I'm, you know, even in spite of how awful you and terrible you are.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it
will love
works.
you. You don't deserve it. That's
Exactly,
literally what they're saying, is you don't deserve it. Fucking rar. It gets me so worked up.
Even so, there are points upon which we differ, and the focus of this debate is one of them. You see, while Christopher is a man who is renowned for his ability to hold his liquor, and I can testify to this personally, he is nonetheless intoxicated by the not so charming notion that the aforementioned ideals can be maintained in an atheistic world. This fascinates me, not the least because Christopher underestimates the degree to which he has been influenced by Judeo-Christian principles. Indeed, that he should value these things at all is evidence of it. Now, he's a formidable and much more experienced debater than myself, an Oxford pedigree, a best-selling author, a celebrated public intellectual, all of which are complemented by a marvelous aristocratic English accent. And that always adds a few IQ points in the minds of Americans. As for me, I'm just a boy from Alabama, but I do have one advantage this evening, that he is large.
If accents make such a big deal, why isn't this boy from Alabama using his? You know, the ladies love the Southern charm. It's very peculiar.
I don't know. Yeah. So don't they have a Southern drawl usually? That Alabamians. I don't know what the plural of Alabama person is. I don't.
Alabamanians.
Alabamanians. Yeah. Okay. I'm so sorry.
We'll have to bug John Gleason sometime and be like, what is the plural of people from your part of the country?
So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. His accent to me sounds like a just generic sort of West Coast accent. Is that what I'm picking up? Like just generic West Coast?
It's generic, but it's so generic you can't really affix it to a region. It's almost Midwest-ish, but it doesn't have any of the inflection or affectations of that either. So I feel like this is something that he studied as part of his communications stuff. Possibly as a public presenter, possibly it's just part of seminary. This is how you can reach more people and get more donations or something. I don't.
I feel like he's sandbagging himself. Right. Do you know what sandbagging is?
Possibly. I'm familiar with it from bowling, which is where you bowl badly in order to get an extra handicap and then bowl good.
Right. It's simply the same principle, and I know it from gaming, right? Because you're like, oh, somebody's sandbagging themselves when they're gaming. So if they go into the lobby and say, oh, I'm not feeling that great today. I know I'm going to do poorly. Like my RSI has been playing up, or I've had really bad games, kind of thing. So if they play badly, they're basically telling people how not good they are in order to make themselves seem better if they just do an average job. You're sort of sandbagging yourself. And it's sort of a tactic. So because if people think you're complete crap, if you do average, they're going to go, oh, he did well considering, and if you do badly, people go, well, that's on par. But if you go in there going, well, I'm the greatest player that ever lived, if you do average, they're like, oh, no, actually, they're really crap, and if you do, I don't know. It's really weird to say. It's sort of this, I'm not going to do very well tonight, guys, because he's got an accent. I always feel it weird that people bring up accents and stuff in debates. I mean, I've had it done to me, and it's just like, well, people have said to me, oh, you're trying to speak with an English accent to make yourself more. I can't help how I speak, my guy.
You're secretly British, seriously. Mark. We all know.
Apparently so. I don't know. I just have an accent. And the thing is, like, if you see other Western Australian people, you'll be able to hear it. Like Heath Ledger was Western Australian, and he had the same kind of accent. And so Tim Minchin is Western Australian, and he has a very sort of what people see as English. And I don't hear English. I just hear, oh, yeah, that's West Australian. And I know that one. So, yeah, I don't know.
Ken Ham has a slight remaining accent. Ray Comfort really leans into his Kiwi accent.
No, Kent, no. You should hear a thick Kiwi accent. It is remarkable how weird it is.
I've heard native Maoris speak, and granted, they have more experience with an entirely different language, but still.
I love the Maoris. I think they're amazing. You'll get this big Maori guy who comes over. Hi, mate. You're gonna like they're such lovely people, and I love that they did. Do you know what a haka is?
Yeah, the thing in Parliament. I saw. Savannah did a video on it, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. We need this. Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, and the thing is, like, it is, it's really a rich tradition, and I just loved it so much. Instead of ranting and raving, they're basically dancing at how angry they are about this. It's like, you know what, this is really, it's a really wonderful expression of disapproval that they're doing, right? Really hard disapproval. I liked it. I thought it was awesome.
Absolutely. We could definitely do with more stuff like that with our own protests here. But
yeah,
you use what you've got, what's authentic to you and your cause. So yeah.
Was that part of the Judeo-Christian culture? Is that part of the Judeo-Christian? No, I didn't think so, was it? No.
Largely without, and that is the truth. And while Christopher and truth, as Aristotle once said of his old teacher, while Christopher and truth are both dear to me, it is right to prefer truth. For the last decade, a group of atheist fundamentalists, the so-called new atheists, a group to which Christopher has the dubious distinction of
fundamentalists. Hold it. So what makes somebody a fundamentalist? Like, so here's the question. What makes somebody a fundamentalist?
Adhering to the fundamentals?
Yeah, but in a way that so to me, a fundamentalist is somebody that thinks that something is fundamentally true and is that can't be not true, right? Like fundamentally, it has to be true. That's what a fundamentalist is to me. So I don't see the new atheists as like, do they adhere to any kind of fundamental principles of atheism? No. Like, what's fundamentalist about their beliefs? I don't understand that.
Yeah. Like you must accept nothing. You know, we've dealt with, I used to think that being atheist with the, you know, plus ethics leads directly to humanism. And I still hold to that. But that plus ethics part is kind of important. It's not an entailment of atheism. Without it, you end up with people like, you know, Tom Sheedy.
Who's Tom Sheedy?
He's the president of Atheists for Liberty, which is the Christian nationalist, nominally atheist organization. Yeah. There's Christian nationalist atheists. We did a whole thing. There was a whole controversy about that several months ago.
What?
It's an adventure. TLDR, he hangs out with Michael Shermer and Colin Wright and Peter Boghossian and all those very hard right, but still nominally atheist people. So it's an interesting thing. Yeah, if you or anyone is interested, that's I did an Atheist Lives interview about it where I confronted him about a bunch of his nonsense. It was by far the most difficult interview I've ever done, but I think very important because this man presents himself as a libertarian atheist. But when he says libertarian, he means Christian nationalist.
Nationalist, yeah.
So
wild.
It's a thing. But I'm not sure if I left that in the playlist for the Atheist Lives, because the whole point of the Atheist Lives shows was to highlight creators in the community so others can get to know them and join their community and, you know, cross-communicate, cross-pollinate, if you will. And that's not what I wanted to do with that interview. So I may have taken it out of the playlist, but it was a hell of a trip.
Yeah, that does sound it. I mean,
yeah.
I usually think that people who are atheist arguing for Christianity are just afraid of Islam, essentially. Like, I am starting to, like, I've seen AP, Apostate Prophet, on David Wood's channel, Apologetics Roadshow, and I'm just every other sort of episode he does is hassling atheists, and it's like, dude, don't you see what he says about you? Like I don't understand that relationship, but, you know, obviously I'm not in it. Maybe there's something else there. Maybe he doesn't mean it. I don't know, but I would sort of be going, hey, you called me stupid and you called me all these different things. I don't know. It's very strange that you know, I don't get that, except that there's a bigger enemy to them, and that's Islam, kind of thing. That's the only thing that I can see. Yeah,
it brings us back to racism.
Well, I don't think it's racism. I mean, Apostate Prophet is from the Middle East. I mean, it's hard to say that, but
I mean, okay, so it's not racism. It's like a culturalism, I suppose.
Well, kind of. I think it's more religious prejudice. I'm very familiar with a lot of Muslim people that are not in any, like, they're as fundamentalist as the average Christian is fundamental. You know, they're really not, you know, radicalized in any way. They're just ordinary people just living their lives. But we have Indonesia to the north of us, the most populous Muslim country, but Indonesia is not, Muslim Syria or something like that. It isn't Iraq, it isn't Iran. You know, there's no comparison between the two countries. So yeah, it's sort of, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I might check that out later. That's wild. I can't believe I haven't seen this.
Sneaky stuff. Yeah, that was, like I was saying, there was a whole dramatic thing. Joe over at the Kentucky Atheist was doing one of his open panels, and and Sheedy just popped right in, and he was like, "Hey, I'm president of this organization, and we work with a lot of famous atheists, and we want to like help unite the community to stand up against the Christians." And it all sounded really, really good, but he was flying false colors. And, you know, Joe felt bad because he didn't background check the guy, even though it was an open panel and just anybody could show up. And then, you know, I felt bad too, because trans stuff started to come up. And I kind of stepped up to deflect for the guy. I was like, I said something to the effect of, we can talk about other things and disagree on other issues and still be united on this issue. That, because I still had this underlying assumption of general human goodness, especially among people who prize skepticism and rationality, that we can disagree with on a rational level, with people who value evidence and logic on whether a person deserves full equal human rights. Obviously, I feel like I can convince a rational person that's just self-evidently true.
Yeah.
But that's easier to do without God muddying up the equation.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have done that. I should have let Sheedy put his foot in his mouth and expose himself right on Joe's stream. So that's why I did the show with him, because I kind of wanted to make up for it, to show no,
that's
actually,
fair.
I misspoke. Some people are not logical and rational. That is not an entailment of being an atheist.
No, absolutely not.
So yeah, it was the hardest show I've ever done, because while I don't have a problem with like confronting people, it was really hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know.
Revising both past and present in an effort to eradicate Christianity from public life. These ivory tower theorists never tire of telling us that the world really would be a better place without Christian influence.
Well, see, there's an important distinction. We're not trying to eradicate Christianity from public life in the same way these guys want to eradicate everything that isn't Christian from public life.
Right.
We're saying that being Christian should not be the primary and only qualification for everything one does on a policy level in public life. Be the president and be a Christian if you want to. Every other fucking president ever has, you know, but don't let it guide your policy. I mean, when JFK was elected, a lot of people were worried that would make the United States subservient to the Pope because he was a Catholic. That's what we mean. Don't put your religious authority ahead of your duties. And that's kind of what Larry is advocating for.
Well, and I think that we've got to be sensitive to the idea that as far as a nation publicly, because I mean, if you're talking about private stuff, that you know, nobody gets to tell you what to do in a religion unless you're harming people in some way. But like secularism is saying, hey, we've got to be conscious of the other religions that are around. So, you know, essentially we're looking at it as, well, if they have the right to preach, and I got to give a big shout out to the Satanic Temple for doing this. They exercise the same religious rights that the Christians do, to much amusement from me and everybody else, you know, because what we're saying is that we don't want to eliminate Christians from public. It's just, if you have a right to do something in public, then every other religion should have the same right. We're basically saying that all religions should be treated equally, just as the practitioners of those religions should be treated equally, because that's what makes a functioning society. So and that's an idea that, like mentioned earlier, that comes from India, where all the religions have the same rights to things, basically, so that, you know, a marriage performed by a Muslim cleric, a Christian priest, and a Hindu I think they're called yogi. I'm not sure exactly what they're. Anyway, the priests of Hinduism, they all have the same value in that society. So that's basically what we're talking about. You're the one that wants you to have special things. I mean, the Ten Commandments thing was amazing. They put up the Ten Commandments, so the Satanic Temple put up a statue of Baphomet.
Mm-hmm.
Was that Ten Commandments or was it a nativity scene? It was one of the two. But the statue of Baphomet was awesome. It was great. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic.
It's probably both. Baphomet has there are two statues, and they make appearances at various events all over the country as different things get wheeled out. Often it's the Ten Commandments. Sometimes it's nativity. Sometimes it's something else. There was a courthouse, I want to say in Ohio, but it's very fuzzy in my head, where they put a big fucking Jesus on a cross in front of the courthouse. So here comes Baphomet.
Here comes Baphomet, because they should have the same rights as you do. The one that made me amazed that they protested was that Christians were doing after school groups in a public school. Like, so these after school Christian groups. So the Satanic Temple did after school satanic groups. And they explained it's all about giving them confidence, a belief in themselves. All of these things, everything they stated that they were doing was a good thing. If I had a child, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds better than learning about Noah and this flood that never happened.
And how awful you are, and how much you deserve eternal torture.
Right. And I've never experienced that myself. My wife has experienced that kind of thing where they tell you that you're going to burn in whatever, like, this is not healthy for a kid to experience. What is healthy is giving them a sense of confidence, acceptedness, accepting them for who they are, sort of teaching them not to be afraid of things. And I've got to say, the thing about the Satanic Temple is that in their core literature, they have a proclamation not to hurt or to not to hurt children at all. It is absolutely a violation of their principles. And that's more than I can say for the Christians. There is nothing in the Bible that says do not hurt children. In fact, there's a couple of passages like, spare the rod and spoil the child. Or, the one that if your son is a drunkard and disobedient, to take them out in front of the temple and stone them, where they treat children incredibly badly. And, that is something that the Satanic Temple's got going for it.
Yeah. I mean, I've said in other times in other places that there are some experiences in my life where when I'm at a loss for what to do, I think of what other people in my past have done and then do the opposite. Because if it was harmful, damaging, immoral, and monstrous, then doing the opposite should be, ethical, moral, virtuous, and just the right thing to do. And it usually works out. And I feel like, to some extent, in some parts of concocting its messaging, TST has done that. They say, what did the Bible do? Let's do the opposite of that. And it's clearly a very good thing. Yeah. And you know what else is a very good thing? Eric Wander just gifted 10 Emberships.
Eric, champ.
Thank you, Eric. That's awesome. Those went to Hillhugger, Sterling Nash, Jasper, Jake, insert clever dapper inside joke here, Nelson, Mapleson, Spooky Bedhair, L Trucker, James Nordoff, Collagious789, Rochelle, we haven't seen you in a while, and Mark Agamoto 1313 Smith. So congratulations, folks. Enjoy all the fun custom emojis and all the exclusive content and member streams when I have the occasion to do them. I did one, I think it was last week. My schedule's crazy because I'm working 5 flipping jobs right now, but we're doing our best over here, folks. But I do appreciate all the members, both gifted and manually subscribed, and anybody else who helps me try to do this more, because I really enjoy being here with you folks. And so thank you, Eric. That's much appreciated.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, really, really appreciate it, mate.
Hell yeah.
Atheism, they say, is the way, the truth, and the life. In the time that I have, I would like to offer 3 compelling reasons why this is not so. More than that, I would like to demonstrate why an atheistic world is a place where none of us, not even the new atheists, want to live. First of all, the world would literally be a poorer place were atheism ever to eclipse Christianity. Among the many things for which Christopher Hitchens has gained notoriety is a challenge he puts to his audiences or readers. Name me an ethical statement made or an action performed by a believer that could not have been made or performed by a non-believer. The idea is that there is no good thing that a Christian can do that an atheist cannot do also. At first blush, the challenge seems to have merit. An atheist can, for instance, perform works of charity and maintain high moral standards, just as any Christian is supposed to do. But that is, as I have said, only at first blush, because the challenge is a sham. It's kind of like asking, what can a herbivore eat?
Well, I'll give him this. The challenge is a sham, but not for the reasons he thinks. It carries the unspoken assumption that Christians are capable of moral action, which I don't think is true. I mean, under a fundamentalist worldview, where God is the objective source of all morality and obedience to God is obeying a divine command. So by that fundamentalist reasoning, Christians are incapable of morality. All they can do is obey God's morality.
Yeah, I get that stance. Yeah, absolutely. That you know, but I don't know. It's kind of, but Christians sort of disobey God all the time. They just make rationales for it. There's definitely, like, if you look at the Bible and the things that it actually advocates in the law, they just make up rationalizations. I mean, the Catholic Church has been doing it for ages now. God's position on homosexuality is absolutely clear. It's just that they rationalize sort of parts of it over the other and sort of then say, hey, but God loves everybody, so therefore it's fine. And it's like, yeah, that's not what your book says. So I'm not so sure about that one. I think they can make moral decisions and often do. Because with that book, you have to disobey it. You have to. In order to be a moral person, yeah.
Well, not just to be a moral person, to continue to survive. We've seen Christianity evolve within our own lifetimes, where the belief systems change. I mean, we've talked about on other shows where we get a little bit more science-y about how they were proponents for the longest time about what we would today call the steady state model of the universe, because it was beyond comprehension that a perfect God could create something so imperfect that it was ephemeral and didn't always exist.
Right.
And then the Big Bang happened and they immediately pivoted to, oh, well, this is just Genesis's let there be light moment,
Right. Yeah. Just incorporate that into your religion for sure. Absolutely.
So
except for the ones that haven't, and still think the earth is 6,000 years old. That's wild to me. That is wild.
But yeah, it does evolve, it does shift, and it has to, because if it didn't, they would get wiped out by every other culture for being a very clear threat to everyone.
Yeah. I mean, the Catholic Church has had to do so many apologies. It's getting, I'm feeling secondhand embarrassment for them, quite frankly. But, it really does underline just how much wrong they have done over the course of of human history. If you are appealing to Christian morality as being fundamental to our society, then you've got to take on all the wrongs they have done as well. But evangelicals will kind of say, well, Christianity has been pivotal to Western society, and then in the next breath say, but Catholics aren't Christians, and it's like, but that's the people you're talking about. It wasn't Protestants that controlled Europe for hundreds and hundreds of years. It was the Catholics The Protestants left because they were being persecuted.
Yeah, they were fed up with the Catholics' bullshit. Yeah, before Martin Luther, there weren't Baptists, there weren't Methodists, there weren't Episcopalian. No, everyone in the West anyway was Catholic.
Right.
And the East has Eastern Orthodox out of Constantinople and so forth. So like it is a great irony that they're like, oh, Christians did all these wonderful things, but this group of Christians who were all Christians aren't Christian.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know Taunton's position on it. He might not hold that position. But then, if you're admitting that if Catholics are Christians, then you've got to take on all of the horrendous things that they have done.
Yeah, and that's a valid point. I will give some credit to Larry's argument. History would be very different without Christians. For one thing, we wouldn't have had the Dark Ages. We'd be 1,000 years further ahead progress-wise. And Christianity gets credit for that.
A carnivore cannot eat also. After all, a hyena can eat grass, leaves, and bark, just as elephants do. But the fact is, hyenas don't eat grass, leaves, and bark because it's not in their nature to do so. Similarly, while atheists can perform works of charity and maintain high moral standards, history reveals that they don't with any degree of consistency. The statistics bear this out. According to a study conducted by the Barna Group, Christians are the most charitable segment of the population.
Hold on. Records Group. Barna Group? What's this now? I don't know how the hell he spells that. Barna Group. Okay. Let's see. Church research. Enhance your sermons. That sounds like an unbiased source, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
Join pastors and leaders nationwide who trust Barna. You know what? I'll just pull up the page and let's all look at this together. Strengthen your message, train your team, and grow your church with cultural insights and practical resources all in one place. Buy the extra thing, about events, explore. I'm not seeing scholarly research, polls and assessment tools, maybe?
Barna Research Library. Well, I do know of a few studies that do say that Christians give more on average than the atheists or secularists. So I get that. I'm not arguing that. The problem is that you've got to be aware of what they mean by give more charitably, because a lot of that is because it beats Christians during, Deviant, we're talking about a pro rata basis, so like on a percentage basis, so we account for that. But the thing is that they include their donations to their church for that. And here's the thing, also the studies say that atheists are much more generous outside of their social group. Mm-hmm. So an atheist will give to a Christian charity if the thing, an atheist will help somebody who's non-Christian. Christians will generally only help other Christians, and a lot of that donations that they're taking into account are their tithe to church, which it is to me, that is arguable that is actually going to charity or not. Like you can't look at Joel Osteen and go, well, his followers are giving to charity. That man does not need his money. I don't, so I think there are a couple of lurking variables in there. Let's see about Barna Group. Thousands of
I'm still poking around a bit in their about section.
Looks like just a Christian research group. I mean,
yeah, apparently they do. They claim. Well, I'll share the page again. They've conducted more than 2 million interviews over the course of thousands of studies, whatever that means, and has become a go-to source for insights about faith and culture, leadership and vocation, and generations, whatever that means. They have carefully and strategically tracked the role of faith in America, developing one of the nation's most comprehensive databases of spiritual indicators. And this goes on for a while. There's a lot of bragging. They have been quoted by CNN, USA Today, Wall Street Journal, Fox News, Chicago Tribune, Huffington Post, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So I think that is true, that Christians give more than atheists, kind of thing. So but here's a couple of that there are what we call in statistics is lurking variables, right? Things that sort of throw it off a bit. Number one, they're expected to tithe, for instance. That's not a like you've got to stop looking at that as, well, they're being generous, because his argument is they're being generous when they don't have to. But the problem is that tithe is seen as non-voluntary. It seems as it's compulsory to do that, to set aside part of your income for the church. So I'm not sure you could count that under a moral thing, because you're not choosing to do it. That is absolutely expected of you, right? So that isn't charity. That is a religious obligation. Now you can say, hey, that religious obligation is a good thing, but it's not. But it doesn't add to your argument of being more charitable for a start. Number two, a lot of it is that just giving to your church, which they may use it to only help their parishioners. And, you know, if it's the Catholic Church, they may send it to the Pope, you know, a certain percentage to the Pope. I'm not sure you could count that as charity. So there's another lurking variable. Number three, atheists generally, the functionality of the church to things like help the poor, generally you will find that atheists are more happy to pay more taxes if the government is doing that job that the church does, helping the poor, feeding the things, you know, sheltering the homeless, those functions. Atheists are very willing for the state to take more taxes in order to do. So it's sort of this really, and you'll find that a lot of Christians do not want that to happen. They want to give to their church. The church goes and does that things. But so atheists are very willing to give charity, but it's not defined as charity. It's defined as social services under the government, you know, and that's where they think that assistance should come from, while Christians see it as, well, I'll give to the church and the church will do all of these things, which I dislike, because what happens is the church will, like the government, as long as it is secular and obliged to help people without reference to religion, it will help anybody that needs it. What happens with religion is that they'll give to the church and the church will help Christians. That's who they'll help.
If that.
Or people, yeah. Or people that espouse to be Christian. And that's the problem. And that's why atheists, they don't care about religion when you know, donating or helping somebody on the street or, you know, helping hungry people. They don't care. And that's the big difference here. So I think that, you know, this whole idea that atheists are less generous, I don't think that's true.
Exactly. Forrest Valkai on his own raised tens of thousands for Doctors Without Borders, whereas the Catholic Church did not help the suffering people in Calcutta. The Mormon Church spends their charitable donations on anti-human ads and political campaigns. You know, these things, Joel Osteen's charitable love offerings or whatever, buy him a bigger mansion. None of these things actually help anyone.
Yeah, tax breaks. Yeah, and this is an organization that doesn't get taxed, basically. And don't get me wrong. And you know, Alex was talking about that in the chat, and I absolutely agree, Alex. I think that, like, don't get me wrong. There are churches out there that help other people, and they'll help whoever they want. But unfortunately, there's not enough of them, and they prioritize their own members. Which isn't charity. Charity is helping anybody, basically, to me anyway. But they should have to prove that they are helping the community in order to get that tax break, in my mind, that they are actually making a significant difference in the community. And so the ones out there that are, it shouldn't be a problem for them. And people like Joel Osteen can be, you know, his church can be taxed, and, you know, Hovind's church can be taxed because he's not helping his community. He's helping himself, you know, absolutely helping himself. Yeah. So, and so this whole idea, I mean, me personally, I do give to charities. I give to Wilderness Society Australia. I give to there's a youth thing. I've slipped in mind, but also there's a few charities that I give to. I give to Greenpeace as well, mostly environmental stuff because that's a lot of what's on my mind. I also do sort of spend some of my hours a month doing support work on the phone as well. So this whole idea that atheists aren't charitable has never spent time in an atheist community. I know people that are amazingly charitable. It's just that we don't have the money. It's easy to be in a church that not taxed and give some of it away.
Yeah, for
it
sure.
is.
Deviant says she has an essay from a university that I can't pronounce. But it's in English on this topic. So yeah, Deviant, you have a wrench now, so you can go ahead and do that. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, awesome, Deviant. I'd love to read it. Is it in Swedish? Because if it's in Swedish, I'm going to have some problems.
She says it's in English, but
okay.
We know better than to trust these atheists and they're immoral.
These atheists, yeah, these moral atheists. And here's the thing. I've been to I haven't been to Sweden. Actually, Sweden's a place I'd like to go, but in the summer, so it's not so cold, because I know it gets so cold there. But I've been to atheist countries like the Netherlands and Japan and stuff, and people are kind and helpful, and this idea of the atheist country is somehow going to turn into communist Russia is just so wrong. Like they couldn't be more wrong. The Sweden is incredibly atheistic, and they're some of the nicest people I've ever met. Like absolutely wonderful people.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I haven't met many, fewer still in person, but I have yet to meet a horrible person from any of the Scandinavian countries, frankly. But shoot, I was thinking of something else, but it's a tangent on top of a tangent, so I'll just let it go for now.
Quite frankly, the scores and the amazing results that Finland is producing with its education system, I really wish more countries would actually pay attention. The Finnish education system is amazing.
Hell yeah. I mean, being from the US, everybody's education system looks amazing to me, but
yeah. Well, it depends on the state you're from as well. That's the thing. I think that it is some states dragging down the aggregate, to be honest with you. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, sadly, New York is fairly good as far as US states go.
Yeah. Yeah.
But most of the humans I know are from New York, and it's not a very high bar. Sadly.
Okay. Well, I think I'll refrain from that because I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those George Carlin things, think of the average person, and bear in mind that half of people are dumber than that.
Indicates that the average evangelical gives almost 10 times as much money to nonprofits as the average atheist. Now, this isn't to say that there aren't some charitable and decent non-believers or even some uncharitable and immoral believers. Rather, that when atheism is adopted as a worldview at a societal level, be it passively or actively, its effect on that society is detrimental. The Canadian magazine, Maclean's, not a Christian magazine by any stretch of the imagination, commenting on a similar study of their own, concluded, without organized religion, the world would be a much poorer and less comfortable place for the less fortunate. Secondly, atheism is dehumanizing. In the Christian view, man is a moral and teleological being made in the image of God. He has intrinsic value as the pinnacle of God's creation, a composite of both flesh and spirit. He has one foot firmly planted in this world and one foot in the next. From the atheistic perspective, man is nothing more than a soulless animal. It is this impoverished concept of humanity.
That's a hell of a juxtaposition.
Wow.
Considering, yeah. I have a clip. It's a few seconds long, so I will just play it right now.
I think that's what distinguishes from Christianity from every other religion, because he's still talking about being a good person. And Christianity comes and says, no, you're incapable of being a good person. You're an evil person. You're a terrible person. At the core fabric of who you are. That's why we need laws. We need laws because we're bad people. All of us are bad people.
That's Christianity. This whole man is a divine being shtick. They only say that when they're trying to draw a comparison with atheism, who holds that human beings, I mean, atheism doesn't, because it isn't a cohesive worldview. It's just the answer to one question. But we secular humanists hold that humans have value because we're fucking people.
Yep.
So it's the exact opposite of what Larry is saying. But I mean, you get used to that with these Christian nationalist types. Any fascist, when they make a declarative statement, you can bet money the exact opposite is true. Why?
And the study that Deviant Outcast gave is the same one I was referring to. Oh, maybe it wasn't. It was actually 18th of September. Oh, no, it must be another one. Okay, so they did another study and found that atheists are more... So they found that atheists are more generous when they don't know of their religion. And the Christians are only more generous when they know what religion they are.
Interesting. That kind of tracks. Like if you say to a Baptist, oh, it goes to a Baptist hospital, then a Baptist will be more inclined to give. But if you say it's, a Catholic hospital, they'll say, oh, well, fuck them. The Pope has enough money, which is kind of fair, but also kind of hypocritical.
That has led atheists like Princeton bioethicist Peter Singer, dear to all Montanans as the father of the animal liberation movement, to advocate infanticide. Mothers, he says, should get up to 28 days to decide whether or not to keep their children, their newborns, or to exterminate them. But Singer does not stop there. He has also endorsed euthanizing the mentally disabled and the non-contributing elderly. And why not? If there is no God, then there is no such thing as sanctity of life. You're an animal like any other, and we may therefore choose to put you down.
He does know that there are people who believe animals deserve their lives too, right? Maybe?
Who is Singer? Who is this guy that he's talking about?
No
I mean, I don't think that the Singer guy is the mainstream atheist thinking, to be honest with you. I really don't.
I know we should vote him out at the next atheist convention.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, what the hell? That's like sort of saying, hey, Christians believe that you should kill homosexual children because this one person made that claim, this person made that statement. Who is Singer? And why does he represent atheist thinking? I don't know who this person is. Did he give the name of him?
I thought he said Pete Singer, but the only Pete Singer I'm finding is a professor of bioethics from Australia.
Oh.
So I don't know what he means. It's a specific example. Even if what he said were true, we should vote him out at the next atheist election because we totally have those. Because he's showcasing his own worldview because he's trying to project it so hard. This idea of authoritarian necessity. There must be a hierarchy with one powerful being on top telling everyone else what to do. Because how else would society function?
I really I really think that he's misquoting this guy. This guy's parents were okay, hold it. So euthanasia and infanticide. Singers argue that the right to life is essentially tied to a being's capacity to hold preferences. In practical ethics, Singer argues in favor of abortion rights on the ground that fetuses are neither rational nor self-aware and therefore can hold no preferences. As a result, he argues that the preference of a mother to have abortion automatically takes precedence. In some, Singer argues that fetus lacks personhood. Similar to his argument for abortion rights, Singer argues that newborns lack the essential characteristics of personhood, rationality, autonomy, and self-consciousness, and therefore killing a newborn baby is never equivalent to killing a person, that is, a being that wants to go on living. Singer has clarified that his view of when life begins isn't very different from that of opponents of abortion. He deems it not unreasonable to hold that a human life begins at conception. If it doesn't, then it begins about 14 days later, when it is no longer possible for the embryo to divide into twins or other multiples. Singer disagrees with abortion rights opponents in that he does not think that the fact that an embryo is a living human being is sufficient to show that it is wrong to kill it. Singer wishes to see American jurisprudence and the national abortion debate take up the question of which capacities a human being needs to have in order to be wrong to kill it, when in the development of the early human being, these capacities are present. Singer classifies euthanasia as voluntary, involuntary, or non-voluntary. Voluntary euthanasia. He argues in favor of voluntary euthanasia and some forms of non-voluntary euthanasia, including infanticide in certain circumstances, but opposes involuntary euthanasia. Bioethicists associated with the disability rights and disability studies have argued that his epistemology is based upon ableist conceptions of disability. Singer's positions have been criticized some advocates from disability rights. Okay. So he hasn't actually advocated that. He hasn't advocated unaliving a baby. He's just said that there seems to be very little difference between it. So he hasn't actually advocated that. And he opposes involuntary euthanasia. So this guy is just misrepresenting him. So non-voluntary euthanasia is when, say, somebody's in a coma, for instance, and they cannot make a decision, right? So that's what non-voluntary is. It's when somebody is in a state where they cannot accept that decision or disagree with that decision, right? So they're not volunteering, and it's not involuntary because they're not disagreeing. They can't agree or disagree, like somebody who is in a brain dead state, for instance, that kind of thing. So this guy, so to say, hey, you can just take the grandparents out, that is a gross misrepresentation of what he has said. That's a disgusting misrepresentation of what he said. Because he's not advocating for involuntary euthanasia, which is what we're talking about. If you go to Granny and say, hey, you're old, we got to take you out, and Granny says no, how is that non-voluntary instead of involuntary? Because Granny goes, no, I'm not going anywhere, I'm going to be here forever. Like that's not, like, what are you talking about? He's not advocating for that. That's just a lie.
Well, that never happens. We
Yeah,
never see that sort of thing. Misrepresentation and dishonesty and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
In reaching these conclusions, Singer is simply being a philosophically consistent atheist. Now, let me say at this point that I'm delighted that my friend and colleague, Christopher, is not a philosophically consistent atheist. It is also this sort of thinking that permits communist regimes to treat people like raw material. Let us not forget that atheism is not merely incidental to communism. It is a defining characteristic. In the Christian worldview, the state is a temporal institution meant to serve man, an eternal being. In the communist model, this is reversed. Man, a temporal being, serves the eternal state. People are merely commodities.
So, point of order, communism is an economic system. He's referring to a political system, and this drives it bugs the shit out of me because Americans are so fucking uneducated. And also, I know he loves, people like Larry, love to go off on Soviet Russia.
Yeah.
Which was not actually atheist. There was a period where the churches were shut down, but Stalin brought them back. He forced people to become Eastern Orthodox Christians because it was one more lever of control for the state, which is exactly what we're seeing in the US now. The Soviets were atheists is bullshit. They were forced Christians. What do you mean?
Well, Marxism is inherently communist. So Marxism is inherently anti-religion because Marx described religion as one of the things that have control over the people. The fact that they went to communism and really veered away from Marxism is very telling. But I don't think any of the things that Stalin did was because he was an atheist. It's just incidental that he was an atheist. I think it's the fact that he was a horrible dictator that's the problem. And they want to point at communist Russia all the time for an atheistic or secular state, but they never point at any of the modern countries that are actually doing quite well. It's very strange. I think that whether communist Russia was atheistic is certainly debatable. I do know that a lot of people were atheists in it. I'm not so sure. I haven't heard that Stalin forced people into church. I didn't hear that.
It doesn't come up much because nobody wants to defend Stalin's Russia, understandably.
Right. Yeah.
There's so much crazy, wild stuff going on. But yeah, as far as the modern countries, Vietnam, still communist. You can go there today and the people are pretty much fine. I mean, you can weigh the pluses and minuses of their system versus a capitalist dystopia. But you wouldn't, as a visitor, you wouldn't go there and be like, oh, these people are all destitute. This is an obviously communist country. It doesn't even register,
Yeah, well, I think that if you sort of say, well, if you're going to say, hey, there's this country that was atheistic and believed in communism, so any atheist, has to be represented by them. I think you could say, well, there's these countries that were theocratic, so all Christian countries has to be represented by the worst, Christian countries. That's the whole point. You're basically taking the very worst and saying, okay, you have to have this extreme example to be the norm. Well, that's fine. Why don't we do that with Christians as well? Why don't we point to the horrendous theocracies of the medieval era, where the aristocracy was hand in hand with the church? Why don't we point to the Pope in the Vatican living it up while people donate ridiculous sums of money to them?
Yeah. It's the point is our friend Larry is dishonest. Shock, I know.
Yeah. Wow.
Consequence, there is no consideration of and no room for man's non-material needs: hope, love, faith, freedom, and purpose. Nowhere was this warped thinking more evident than in the system of orphanages devised during the Soviet era and still in use today. Orphanages provided a perfect laboratory for the atheist diehards who spiritually assassinated generations of Eastern European children with their soul-destroying educational theories. Their premise: there is no God, there's no soul, there's no afterlife, and the supreme responsibility of the state is to make good communists. To visit a state-operated Eastern European orphanage is to see the logical consequences of atheistic social engineering. I know, I have seen them. It is a place where children are frequently treated like animals, which is, of course, perfectly consistent with atheism. And this brings me to my third point: the appalling record of atheistic regimes. John Lennon famously sang, "Imagine there is no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky."
What?
Imagine all the...
Yeah.
John Lennon, the Pope of England, I guess.
that was against religion. It was basically pointing out how religion divides people. Are you okay? I like, of all the songs that Christianity has tried to appropriate for their own causes, Imagine by John Lennon.
I know.
It's so confusing, because he's basically going, imagine how wonderful the world would be without religion, like without these religions fighting, without these people dividing us. And it's a beautiful song. It's so weird that the Christians are trying to co-opt that song to say, oh no, they're no, what are you talking about? Okay, sorry. It's a beautiful song. It's a beautiful song. Why are you trying to, steal it for your own religious purposes? You what an ass.
They got to violate those commandments, otherwise Jesus died for nothing. Thou shalt not steal. Okay, let me yoink.
Oh, I thought you were talking about bear false witness one. Oh, that's two he's violated.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
2 for 1 sale. Thriftiness. It's a virtue.
Mm-hmm.
People living for today. Like the new atheist, Lenin spoke about such a world as though it would be perfect. He could not have been more wrong. But Lenin was right about one thing. It is easy to imagine such a world without God, if you try, because Russian atheists, to cite only one example of atheists gone wild, they did more than imagine a godless world. They built it. For 75 years, the world's atheist elites had their way with foreign and domestic policy, the military, the economy, the secret police, and the lives of countless millions of people. The result? 7 decades of unremitting turmoil, bloodshed, famine, theft, backwardness, incompetence, and continual promises of a coming utopia. In his great novels, Demons and the Brothers Karamazov, Dostoevsky predicted that if Russia's communists ever gained control of the levers of power, it would lead to the expulsion of Christianity from public life, and with it, the annihilation of morality, the rise of totalitarianism, and the proliferation of state-sponsored genocide. He would prove prophetic. The 20th century was an experiment in atheistic society and governance that witnessed the deaths of no less than 100
Hold
million
on. This guy's just conflating atheism with communism. Like, you do realize those are two totally different things. And I mean, I love how he misquotes Singer, and Singer has actually said that, hey, he's in favor of capitalism because he doesn't think that communism will work. Like, this is the thing. Like, you absolutely are leveraging the worst atheists against all atheists. It's just bigotry at this point. Like, holy crap! But this is the tactic we see in debates today. This is the tactic that Islamic people are doing. They'll be like, oh, there's communists that tried to get rid of religion, and it went horribly, kind of thing. Yeah, it was because Stalin was a totalitarian dictator who used communism as a system for basically exercising power. That isn't because he was an atheist.
Yeah.
Very, very strange.
It's stereotypes all the way down. It's the same way they make any argument. We cherry pick one thing about evolution. Oh, there's no transitional fossils, therefore creationism is true by default.
Right.
You found one horrible atheist, therefore the whole Christianity is true. It's not even all atheism is bad. It's Christianity is true. We have to get that non sequitur, that leap in logic in there too. But also, because our friend Larry is apparently dishonest about every single fucking thing he says, I felt like checking up on Dostoevsky. And it turns out while he was ideologically opposed to the principles of Soviet-style communism, the Soviet Union, not exactly known for their free speech attitudes, allowed his books to be printed during the entirety of their existence. And they opened a museum dedicated to him in Leningrad in 1971. Not exactly what you do with the kind of person that you've disappeared and unpersoned. Yeah. Details, though. Why let reality get in the way of a good story?
I mean, do we really have to point out that the church burnt people at the stake and, tortured them?
Hey, we don't have to talk about Bruno.
Okay. Yeah, poor Bruno.
Poor Bruno. He's become a joke because of a meme hundreds of years after his death.
Like, if we want to like start comparing brutalities, then you've got to take responsibility for the Crusades and the Inquisitions and the witch burnings and all of this stuff, because that was an integral part of the culture at that point, and that was all Christians all the way down. The entire feudal system, all Christians, all of them. That they implemented the church as pivotal to the state. The Dark Ages that Ember just mentioned. Remember those Dark Ages?
Mm-hmm.
Where technology essentially sat still? All Christians, all of them. We're not just talking about like, the leaders being Christian. All of them were Christian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the people helping oppress each other and reporting. Yeah, you've got to compare like with like. You've got to say, here's
Right.
the bads that these have done, here's the goods. But he's saying, no, here's the one. Christians are so charitable. We're the most wonderful people ever. Mm-hmm. And he's comparing that against Stalin.
Yeah.
What are we doing? It's dishonesty. I mean, that goes without saying, but like, what else do you call it?
Utopian dream go wrong? The answer is simple. Atheism removes any moral imperative. Where Christianity seeks to restrain our darker impulses, atheism exacerbates them. Having no fear of judgment in the next life for actions taken in this one, these governments were free to treat their citizens in whatever manner they deemed expedient. And yet, in spite of all of this, a new atheist syndicate would give us the 20th century in perpetual
syndicate. The horsemen are a syndicate.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
You better obey Dennett or Hitchens will come break your knees.
When did they become syndicated? I wasn't aware of that.
Pay your protection money. Holy shit.
Run.
Well,
how many genocides?
So syndicate doesn't necessarily, like today's linguistic understanding is that it's a criminal organization, right? That's not necessarily what it means. It basically means a group that is tasked to carry out just one function or one purpose is really what the traditional use of the word is. The railroads, for example, were syndicated and then they're incorporated. But when they're tasked to do just one thing, that is what a syndicate is. So he's conflating the language here. Really, I get they syndicate them in. Yeah. There you go.
And that's true. We're kind of doing that now. We're watching a Hitchens rerun on YouTube.
Gotcha, atheist. Checkmate,
that's
atheist.
Right. That's right. Therefore, God.
Must the world suffer before people realize that belief in God is a necessary component for the stability of civilization. Ladies and gentlemen, no matter what's
cool. Now explain all the civilizations that don't have that work just fine and or better than the West with their perpetual wars and shit.
Yep.
I'll wait.
Then the new atheist put on atheism. There's nothing new about it. It is what it has always been, a hopeless, a pitiless worldview. Anything else is just so much whistling through the graveyard. Thank you.
No. Atheism is a stance on one proposition. That's all it is. You can be a totalitarian and be an atheist. You can also be a humanist and be an atheist. There's the whole idea that all atheists are exactly the same is like saying all Christians are exactly the same. That you're no better than the people in the Westboro Baptist Church, which you hate being compared to. These people hate being compared to, the Westboro Baptist Church or the other Christian religions, the Seventh-day Adventists and all of that kind of thing. Like, come on now. You're basically saying that all atheists are the same, and they're absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is just an attack on atheists, not on atheism.
Yeah.
All right, and that was the opening statement of Mr. Larry Taunton, the executive director of the Fixed Point Foundation. Now, the opening statement by Mr. Christopher Hitchens.
And can I just remind everybody, the person that we just heard speak, while he denigrated atheists for destroying societies, destroyed his own marriage by cheating on his wife twice with 2 different staff members working under him. And I mean that figuratively and literally.
But Mark, Jesus forgave him for that, so it's okay.
Oh, yeah, no, it would be the atheist that does that because there's no punishment in the next life.
Right. When an atheist does it, it's immoral. But when a good Christian like Larry does it, Jesus forgives him and it's all good. It's fine.
Yeah.
That's how you get to be a moral person, is you just be a shitty person and get forgiven. Yeah.
And that's the whole point. If you think you can be forgiven for anything in the next life, then you don't, this whole argument falls apart. If what you do makes a difference in this life, because don't forget, they think that this world is going to be destroyed anyway. Kind of pointless to me. Why bother making things better for the next generation if you think that the world is going to be destroyed, and everybody raptured that in this one? Why bother?
Yeah. In fact, there's a group of people called the accelerationists who are trying to speed up the end of the world so they can get to their reward faster or something.
Well, there's different types. I've looked a bit into them. There's different types. So there's definitely the Christian ones that, like Hovind, who thinks that the rapture is going to happen in his lifetime. And I really hope that his followers are paying attention to his prediction that it will happen before he dies. Because, like all of us, Hovind's going to die. And I don't think the end of the world's going to happen. But people can work towards that. They can sort of say, hey, we've got to have these divisions. But some people just think that this system won't work anyway. So they want to bring it down as fast as possible to usher in a revolution or the next system kind of thing. And it's like, that is just a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, if you have a system that you don't think is going to work, so you actively try to destroy it, of course it's not going to work. It's never going to work. Like, I don't understand that thinking. It's wild.
They get to crow about how they were right after they work to make it hit. Humans,
Yeah, it's like sort of being in a relationship and saying, well, I know it's going to break up. I know she's going to leave me. So you're a total prick to her to get revenge on for her leaving you in the future. What's going to happen? Like, seriously, it's so wild. It's so wild.
Anarchic Fox says, my world will not end when Hovind dies. I don't wish him ill or anything, but the world will go on. That's true. And that's very accurate. Yeah. But the contrarian side of me, possibly because I've been hanging out in Joe's streams and Joe over on the Kentucky Atheist, he says such sweet, kind things. Like, I don't want a bad thing to happen. I won't say this bad thing against them. I just kind of, play into that and be like, I'll say the bad thing for you. These are horrible people. They deserve ridicule. So when I see something like that, I don't wish ill of Kent Hovind. I'm like, I'll wish ill on him for you because he is a bad person making the world objectively worse and doing great harm. So fuck him.
Well,
but I don't want to die,
Yeah, no, I get the sentiment and fuck that guy. But at the same time, maybe he's doing something useful by making these ridiculous claims that, I really hope that his followers, when he does eventually pass away, I don't want him to die, but when he, all of us will, when he does pass away, that his followers realize that he was full of crap the entire time. Maybe that's the good that he will leave for the world, Look, I'm trying to look at this dialectically. It's what he has done throughout his life is terrible. Definitely will not take that away. But maybe we can find a small amount of good in what happens. So I hope that his followers are paying attention, that he's called it and he's full of crap.
That is one of the big differences between a worldview informed by an atheistic component and a Christian worldview is, from our perspective, every bad thing has an upside. There's a silver lining to every dark cloud, you might say. From a Christian perspective, no, everything is the will of God, and it just is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Larry, above all, for, how shall I put it, lowballing this evening's contest. If only by phrasing it as a contest between an over-promoted Oxonian elitist and a mere kick from Bama. But you'll have seen already the injustice that Larry inflicts on himself. I mean, but at least I know.
Managing expectations is what we call that in business programs.
Mm-hmm.
I never give the same address twice, ladies. I always wait to see what it's going to be this time from the other side. Sometimes they tell me that the earth is 6,000 years old and God made it this way and wants it this way. Sometimes they say that if I'm not a Roman Catholic, I haven't a chance of salvation, even if I'm a Christian, because there's only one true church. Some people say if I don't believe that there was a dictation by the Archangel Gabriel to the Prophet Muhammad, I have no chance of avoiding hell. Some say if I don't believe in gold plates left in upstate New York by Joseph Smith, I'm in pretty much the same. I never know what it's going to be. And tonight, one I actually must say I have heard before, it's that religious people give more money to charity. Well, I'll get to that. But I want to start with a little thought experiment. Suppose you were to read today that a candidate, a leader had emerged from among the opposition in Iran, a challenger to the theocracy and to its attempt to develop and to deploy illegal thermonuclear weapons, a subject with which I know you're all familiar. This candidate was completely new to Iranian politics. He had a certain integrity, it was said, and he'd been in jail, great courage, great as he would need to have, and as he would need to have been if he wanted to emerge in such a country as such a leader. And that he'd given an interview in which he said that, unlike most Iranians, he had no faith at all in the immediate coming, or even eventual coming, of the 12th Imam, the hidden, the occluded member of the mysterious 12 disciples of Shia Islam, who will come back, and of course on the day he comes back will bring about a reign of universal peace and justice. The outline of that idea, at any rate, may already be familiar to you.
Isn't it interesting that all these overgrown cults have an obsession with the number 12?
Mm-hmm.
You know, 12 apostles, 12 disciples, 12 imams.
12 is a really good number. Like in fairness, 12 is a really good number. It's a cool number. And this is the geek coming out in me. It is a cool number. It divides into 2, 3, 4, 6. Like the divisions that it actually does is really cool. Like 10 doesn't even do that. Like, you know, none of the other numbers do that. It's why it's awesome.
I was going with a different angle, but that's why we do these together, because of the vastly different perspectives on some interesting things, in my opinion. I was going to say, can you tell that these belief systems are all derivative from Babylonian traditions? Because Babylon had a base 12 number system, which is why much of our math has that weird base 12. Like, why are there 60 minutes in an hour? 5 sets of 12. Well, 24 hours in a day, 2 sets of 12. 12 day, 12 night. Why are there 360 degrees in a circle? It's divisible by 12. That's why 12 is so important.
12 is very useful. I realized this when I was younger. I think our number system probably no, decimal's way better, but like base 12 is pretty cool. I realized this when I was younger, and I like had playing D&D, and you had 2d6, right, or 2 normal standard 6-sided dice. And there's a lot of interesting things that come out of 2 6s basically. I just like 12. 12's a cool number.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like it for another reason too, because there's this modern idea which goes to show how we get all ethnocentric about our modern time period, that what's happening now is true across all of time, where people say, well, every human culture has a base 10 numbering system. it must be because we have 10 fingers, and every culture ever had a base 10 numbering system. And
No,
you know,
that's not true. Yeah.
exactly. I'm like, the Babylonians didn't. They didn't go by the number of finger. I'm told by authority figures that they counted by knuckles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That may be an after the fact rationalization. They may have done it a different way, but I don't know. The point is, it goes to show that what the default perspective is. Being a good skeptic means questioning even the defaults that seem completely uncontroversial, because even those are not always true. So yeah, it's a tangent, but it's a fun one, I think.
Made the idea of the 12. He said, I don't believe that at all, says this guy. I don't believe a word of that. I don't think it even rises to tooth fairy levels of believability. I think we'd be a lot better off without it. And I think that belief has helped to beggar and retard and oppress our country and keep not just the country, but the minds of many of its citizens completely in chains. Suppose you were to read that there was such a man who said that he thought his country should not be an Islamic republic, but should be a secular one, and that he himself had no religion. Well, you would have to believe, according to Mr. Taunton, that here was another case of the complete breakdown of somebody's moral compass. Oh dear, you'd have to say. Now Iran is really in trouble. How will this guy know right from wrong? How do we know that he won't start making women into second-class citizens, issuing genocidal threats against the Jewish people? You name it, stoning people he doesn't like the look of. He doesn't believe in God. He's capable of anything. Who here, I ask you, who here is as dumb as to believe such a proposition? But if you don't believe it, if you see the intrinsic absurdity of such an idea, I can sit down now and we can speed up and get more quickly to atheism in the 20th century, which was on our agenda already before Larry decided that he couldn't get through his 10 minutes without spending the allotted 3 minutes on that already. I ask you. Now, the fact of the matter is my challenge still stands because, in fact, we are all herbivores in this. There's no species difference between a believer and a non-believer. And the attitude to, so your analogy falls, sir, the question remains, and I'll phrase it again properly. If it is believed that without religion, there could be no safe judgment about right and wrong, no evolution of proper and serious moral and ethical ideas. If that is true, then you ought to be able to have named, instead of ducking the question, a moral statement made or an ethical statement made or action performed by a believer, a person of faith that I couldn't replicate. Now, I've asked this question in public, on television, in face-to-face encounters, on the radio and in print to the Archbishop of Canterbury, Cardinal Archbishop of Nigeria, various important rabbis, Christian apologists in the academy. I've never had a reply to it. And I think that's interesting. And I not only didn't get one this evening, I got an attempt to change the subject. There's a prize for it, by the way, and I've come up with an answer myself, a partial one, which is better than any that yet a believer's come up with. But I'll tease you about what it's going to be. You might have to beg me later. But there's a corollary to my question, and it's this. Can you name for me a wicked statement made or a wicked action taken by a person of faith because of their religion? Can you do that? Yes, you can. You've just thought of one. In fact, you've just thought of another one. The genital mutilation community is almost entirely faith-based, for example. The suicide murder community is almost perfectly faith-based, and in each case has absolute textual, scriptural authority for what it does.
Yeah, that's...
He's not wrong.
Not only is he not wrong, but that's really, really telling, because that's what we've learned in school for years and years, even before the current movement towards extreme right-wing religio-fascism here in the United States, that to get people to become suicide bombers, to become zealots, to become fanatics, you need a system like religion. It doesn't have to be religion. It doesn't have to be worship of an invisible being that no one can contact, and you have to take the word of the high priest as to what that being wants. But you need something like that. And that's the underlying danger. Like, a lot of us talk about how we don't have a problem with believers as long as they don't try to tell everybody else how to live. But I sometimes point out that I do, actually. Like, if a person wants to go worship and go to church on Sundays, whatever, that's their business. But I will discuss with them why I think that's still a bad idea, even without them using that to influence laws and how society should operate. Because they serve as cover for some really dangerous shit. Not just the religio-fascists, not just the Nazis hiding in their ranks, waiting to exterminate vast swaths of the population, but also the zealots That's the breeding ground for where the zealots come from.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous to everybody. So yeah, there's I get a little too serious sometimes, but
No,
some of this
you're
shit needs to be
fine.
talked about.
Yeah, and I think that sort of the idea that, okay, atheism has this problem because you don't believe in God. And Hitchens is right to point out that you're comparing atheists and Christians when you should be comparing atheists and theists, right? The opposite of an atheist is not a Christian. It's a theist.
They love the dichotomy.
Yeah. That sort of, well, you know, I'm going to take the best from the non-atheist worldview and take the worst from the non-Christian worldview and leverage it against the atheists, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah, dishonesty all the way down.
The Old Testament contains the warrant for genocide, for slavery, for the murder of children and old people in heaps, by the way. No, make Peter Singer blush on his worst day. It's right there, and it's a commandment, and it's in the same passages as the original. The Ten Commandments appear several times, as you know, in the Old Testament in different versions, proving the triumph of relativism even in those pages and approximation. There, those commandments aren't there. They stand. And it's only by deciding that, in fact, no, there are no religious and scriptural absolutes. It's only by that and by resorting to the Socratic dialogue and to moral suasion and to taking, above all, our own responsibility for ethics that we've managed to escape the terrible consequences that attend societies who take their commandments morally in tablet form and don't examine or discuss what it is, but that makes for the good.
Take 2 tablets of commandments and call me in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, you know, what are the side effects may include radicalization, sounding like an idiot,
seeing burning bushes,
thinking things can't be wrong. You know,
it's pretty. You know, this has come up a couple of times in recent weeks. We know how God writes. It's described in the Bible. He carves into stone tablets when he writes. So when people say that the Bible was written by God, this is paper, folks. This is, I mean, yeah, they sometimes hedge and say, oh, it was inspired by, which is why the 4 freaking Gospels tell completely different stories. Never mind that. If it was written by God, according to this, we know what to expect from God writing, and this is not it. It refutes itself at every turn. And I find that very amusing.
Yeah. Nothing creates atheists like reading the Bible.
Yeah, the fact that you open the Bible and it's made of paper. You don't even have to read the first word of Genesis, and it's already refuting itself. Fantastic. I mean, the fact that it's a book instead of the Holy Spirit whispering into your ear, that's another sign, perhaps, a little clue that the thing that it says is evidently not true.
Life, so that by way of an immediate riposte. Charity, I'm not going to duck it. It was brought up, so it was brought up. 2, I would say there were 2 obvious replies. First, do you grant this to all religions? In other words, you must have heard or read, as must you, ladies and gentlemen, that the reason for the power of Hamas in Gaza, a totalitarian, theocratic, racist dictatorship, or the power of its almost sister party in Lebanon, the Hezbollah, the so-called party of God, comes from the extraordinary ability it has to raise money and distribute it in the form of charity and welfare. This indeed is how it cements its well-known popular base. There's, as far as I know, no evidence that that's not true. These people really give till it hurts. They tide each other. They're intensely charitable. So,
and that's actually one of the things that I have very mixed feelings on Islam sometimes, because it isn't actually all bad. And you can say the same about any religion. Christianity does have some upsides, some of the moral precepts, I suppose, since they get ignored all the damn time. But, you know, love your neighbor, the parable of the Good Samaritan, all of these things. There's pluses to these. Islam has as one of its core values caring for the community.
Yep.
This idea that people should tithe not to the churches, but to the community for the welfare of the disadvantaged, the homeless, the ill, etc. It's not just a good idea, it's the holy law. And that's a thing that other religions could do with, I think.
Sure.
How happy are you with that? Do you admit this as a valid example or counterexample? I don't know. I just offer it as true as anything Larry said. When the Roman Catholic Church spends money in Africa, for an example, how much money, and it was certainly counted in the McLean survey that you cited, how much of that money is spent making little children into Catholics? Is that not what the money is spent for? I think you'll find that's true pretty much every other Christian.
Yeah, they don't spend money sort of just giving to Africa. They spend money preaching and proselytizing and converting and setting up schools to teach Christian values. Is that really charity? I would suggest not. I would say that is money that they, and sort of, because it becomes difficult because you're sort of like, well, education's important and they do teach them and set up schools, but those schools are Catholic schools and they require them to be Catholic. So it's just, I would love if they only counted the charity without some form of expectation on the person that's being given to reciprocate with some kind of action.
Yeah, it's an investment. You program more people to grow up and become future tithers. So you can have, a bigger palace and more golden thrones and all of that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Denomination that spends money too. They spend it on proselytization first, then comes the soup or whatever it may be, then comes the advice, equally helpful. So that spiritual and moral growth. AIDS, we'll be told, is bad. Not as bad as condoms, but bad. A net loss, a net wipeout for Africa right there. This Pope would have to live 3 lives to live down just the damage he's inflicted on Africa by those teachings and those preachings. It's an absolute.
If you're unaware, the Catholic Church went round preaching to the African people that condoms in fact made AIDS worse because they didn't like people wearing condoms. The church has always been against it. The damage they caused was insane damage, and it was all part of the holy scripture. Go forth and multiply.
Yeah, and then they blame people for the damage. Oh, you got AIDS? Well, you're an immoral person. You did this, you fuckers.
Yeah.
It's infuriating. And there's so many. I mean, I mentioned the Dark Ages earlier, the lost eras of progress that we could have had, the lost science, the lost medicine, the lost literature, the lost arts. It's heartbreaking when you think about it. But there's a deeper problem, and it's not just in the Dark Ages. It's still going on today. The lost lives and all that human potential just crapped out because one asshole has a bug up his ass about a fucking policy that some stodgy dude generations before him dreamed up and thought was a good idea. But he's infallible, so we can't ever question it. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? I get a little worked up sometimes too.
No, that's okay. Love it.
One cure for poverty as it happens, and everybody knows it, and it's well understood, and it's perfectly simple. It's called the empowerment of women. If you give women control, if you will allow women control over the number of times they have babies, I'll just put it as family style as that. If you'll give them that, and maybe throw in a handful of seeds and a bit of credit, if you do that, the floor of the whole society will rise. Everything, the whole floor of development will rise. That's the proposition Mother Teresa dedicated her life to opposing. Name me a monotheistic religion. We'll stay with monotheism just for now, that dedicates itself to the empowerment of women. I was about to say, one of the things that I was about to say is that one of the things that makes me adopt a pitying stand towards religion and towards the religious is that wherever you look and see its activity, you cannot not notice that it is man-made. After all, what are the chances? That God made man, or that men and women, admittedly, made very many gods, different gods, and therefore different religions. observable reality suggests that the second proposition is very, very much more likely, don't you think? There is the possibility that God made only one religion and only one of them is true, but there's also a third possibility, which is that all of them are, in their different ways, and despite some of their admirable attempts to spread themselves or to survive, that they are all equivalently false. At all events, we now live in a world which can partake of a better tradition, better understood. It starts with Lucretius and Democritus, who came up with the atomic theory. Heaven knows how they did it. Christianity tried to ban that work for many centuries, nearly succeeded, but it's taken up again. The thread is taken up by Galileo, by Spinoza, who teaches people to think for themselves and to say that there is no God, even if there's a divine presence in the universe, can't disprove it. There is no God who intervenes, who answers prayers. Through Voltaire, through Thomas Jefferson, and the founders of our great republic, including Thomas Paine, through Darwin, through Freud, and through Einstein, people who teach us that, risky though it is, terrifying though it can be, that our only hope, and actually also our only joy with this great risk, is that of thinking for ourselves and realizing it cannot be done for us. There are no redeemers, there are no eternal fathers, there is no dear leader, there is no great leader, there is no supreme leader to whom we can look for our own rescue, morally or intellectually. I'll leave you with that thought, and I thank you very much for your attention to me. Thank you.
I appreciate the cameraman's enthusiasm, but he probably shouldn't clap.
Yeah.
I
don't know if it's him or somebody next to him, or maybe somebody next to the boom mic or something. I don't know.
It's possible. It's possible. I do have to correct one thing though. Nil is the great not God and creator of creator gods. I mean, you know, it's great that the word of Nil has been spreading, but it is an important note that Nil is the great not God, because the point of the joke is to avoid that whole where did the God come from? Well, Nil's not a god.
Well, then only one not God is real, and that is Nil.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Or you could say only one God or not God is real, and that is Nil.
That kind of works into an interesting logical situation. I enjoy that.
Mm-hmm. Because if Nil is a not God and creator of gods, and there are no gods, then how can Nil be the creator of gods?
Nil is the creator of nil gods.
That's a paradox right there.
It is. I love it. It's so much fun. Oh my goodness. Yes. Engagement bait. Absolutely.
I love the little box that you've got there. Is that a standard emote? I've never seen that before. That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome.
I don't know what that is either. It's interesting.
Oh yeah, it is. It's
StreamYard's actually showing us a freaking emoji for once.
Well, it's not. It's showing us a square.
Well, you know, a thing that looks like a thing. It does look better in the YouTube chat, though.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, you know, it's a piece of candy.
Thank
I
you,
think it's a
Volpix.
piece of cheese, but I like piece of candy better.
Yeah.
Nil works in very mysterious ways.
Very
no one
mysterious,
can yes. No, what Christopher was starting to delve into, this misogynistic side of the patriarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you don't have to have a misogynistic patriarchy, but when you have a patriarchy, it tends towards misogyny, because
absolutely.
the entire point is if women have power and equality, that threatens the patriarchy. So we make it part of the culture, part of the religion, even to keep women down. Women are the source of all evil. They're the origin of original sin. They did this and that and the other, in order to preserve power. And it kind of goes into what we're seeing today with, and this is coming up more and more all across the secular community, this opposition to bodily autonomy on multiple fronts. From the draconian abortion bans we're seeing across the United States that are costing lots and lots of lives, to the also life-costing banning of trans healthcare and everything in between. It all ultimately boils down to opposition to bodily autonomy for the purpose of perpetuating the patriarchy.
Yeah.
It's not just stupid and evil. It's stupid and evil with a purpose.
Mm-hmm. And let's not forget of the long line of injustices against women in the Christianity's history.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it to say it perpetuated it is an understatement. It absolutely was integral. I don't think women can become priests in the Catholic Church now. Like, I don't think they allow it.
It's an ongoing controversy.
Yeah, and the Christian sects that do allow women clergy are the more progressive ones.
What was it? Was it the Episcopal Church that had a schism over whether to allow women pastors?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
It may have been another one, but my meat brain isn't 100%.
I know that the Anglican one sort of allowed, or the Church of England allowed it ages ago, and it was so controversial. You'd think the sky was falling in, kind of thing. I don't know. It's very strange. It's very, very strange to me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you have a certain set of organs between your legs? Well, that compromises how your brain works.
Yeah.
Apparently, for some reason. Or even better, when they go full on religious justification, you have a divine curse upon you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a reasonable thing to say to someone.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Mr. Christopher Hitchens. Now we'll get into 3 minutes of rebuttals from each, starting with Mr. Larry Taunton.
Well, interesting excursion into Iranian politics. Totally irrelevant.
Is it?
What a wonderful argument.
Communist is totally relevant. I like, you started the politics, sir.
It's a valid comparison, but yet let's not address the argument and the points made. Let's just hand wave it. Totally irrelevant. I don't understand it, therefore it means nothing.
Well, he's
Awesome.
kind of, what are you supposed to say to that? Like.
I think the next time I do a debate and somebody says something I don't like, I'm just going to declare it's totally irrelevant and move on. Why not?
Evil in the name of religion. Why, I imagine they probably just saw one of your buses. Are you familiar with the atheist bus campaign, of which Christopher was a part? They purchased signs on the side of buses that said, "Don't worry."
He's big, man.
Really, the bus got him right in the soul.
Well, he heard from Billy Graham all about the one side of it that got presented.
Oh,
he was told to be mad. Fox News told him how he should feel about it, so he feels about it.
Yeah. Hit him right in the ecumenicals. It hit him right in the ecumenicals.
Ay.
Probably know God. Enjoy your life. I can see one of these Catholic priests wandering down the street, seeing one of those buses and saying, "Oh, children." I don't know.
That's a theist. That's a theist. That's a Christian. That's a Christian. Like, what are you talking about? Like, he's just pointed out that, hey, Catholic priests are famous for something. They believe in God and they still do it. So that completely undermines your own point, you idiot. Wow.
But
I don't mean to.
And any priest who does that, he's not a true Christian, though.
That's right. And
he counts as one of you atheists.
Right. So that's the dodge. It's like anybody that is a Christian and does what a Christian shouldn't do, in my mind, they're not a real Christian anymore. They're an atheist, or they're a heretic, or they're somebody who's a non-believer. So it's kind of this. I mean, the Catholic Church may be moving around these priests. You're moving around their beliefs. Like, seriously, like, what the hell?
Yeah, it it's so fucking crazy. Oh goodness, I'm avoiding another tangent upon a tangent again.
To the evil that you so lament. As for the Hitchens challenge, I think I answered that rather well. The point, ladies and gentlemen, is that the data demonstrates, this is not just by some Christian group that's doing this. The data demonstrates that a robust Christian presence in society is a good thing, that it is a benevolent thing for the poor. Speaking of the orphanages that I was referring to before, I can tell you that many of them rely on external.
Hold on. This is a rebuttal, sir. This isn't more of your introduction. This is a rebuttal. He points out a few things like you're saying that people that aren't atheists, like religion is inherently necessary to make a good society. But we see a lot of societies like Iran, like, Hezbollah and Hamas and stuff that are, they're very religious, but they're not good societies. Like, and you just said, well, that's got nothing to do with it. That directly addresses your point. Like, if the category is that atheists make bad societies, but theists make good societies, then pointing out that there are bad theistic societies completely undermines that point. And you're just saying, well, it's got nothing to do with it. It's got everything to do with it. Because if it is that both theists and atheists make bad societies, including Muslims and Christians make bad societies and atheists make bad societies, then it's not true that atheists make bad societies. It's that people make bad societies.
Yeah. And sometimes people do good, sometimes people and
right.
I'm throwing things. My brain's going in a million different directions, and one of them is that in fairness, we're comparing relatively equivalent things. We're comparing extant societies, which are predominantly misogynistic and patriarchal, and they have their pluses and minuses. Yeah. And we're both imagining better societies, but we can also imagine worse societies than actually exist. The normative range, the Overton window of societyness is somewhat limited in scope. We have seen more horrible societies in the past, like, the caliphates of the 15th century, where they literally did murder all the infidels, and the crusades on the other side of that coin, both Abrahamic religions, one must note. It is fascinating to me how, when you try to have a historian estimate the death tolls caused by these various cultures, it's always Christianity and Islam are somewhat close for 1 and 2, and the number 3 spot is just miles behind in death toll and so forth. So we could have a much worse society. We've seen much worse societies, but they could get much worse still. Some of our societies seem hell-bent on seeing how bad things can get, but that's a different show.
Yeah.
But I lost track of where I was going with that, because, like I said, there's too many other things going on in my head. Things are bouncing all over the place. Like when he was saying about how Christians are the whole morality thing that he kind of brushed on and then moved past. Christians do this, they're good for this reason, they don't do that. And then we suggested, well, then they're just not real Christians. On any given day, you can pull up a news feed and you'll find, multiple stories on nationwide news about, a Christian couple who got arrested for doing naughty things with their children, prostituting their underage child or something, selling their daughter for 30 shekels, or
having affairs with their co-workers.
Sure. A minister, a Christian cult member gets 120 years for child images. It's every damn day, every single day. And this is what we're holding up as the example of morality. So yeah, there's a lot going through my head.
Yeah.
External support, not from the state itself. They receive their support from Christian organizations overseas, and that would mean particularly in the West. And as for Christianity itself, I want to share this. I think this is quite interesting. None other than atheist Richard Dawkins in April of this year was quoted in the Times as saying this: "There are no Christians, as far as I know, blowing up buildings. I'm not aware of any Christian suicide bombers. I'm not aware of any major Christian denomination that believes the penalty for apostasy is death. I have mixed feelings about the decline of Christianity insofar as Christianity might be a bulwark against something worse."
Okay, so he's talking about
Yeah.
Chesterton's fence there. That's this idea that we shouldn't go tearing down things until we know exactly why they're there and what they might be protecting us against. Right. It comes from a thought experiment by, I forget Chesterton's first name, but it's not really important. But he theorized, shall we say, hypothesized, imagined, if you will, that a person buys a piece of property and there's a fence running across the middle of it. And they say, well, what is this damn fence doing here in the middle of my property? Get that out of the way. I want to build an Olympic-sized swimming pool. And so they tear down the fence. And then the wolves that the fence was keeping out immediately eat him.
Yeah.
You should find out why the fence is there first. And that's what he's hinting at. Except we know what this fence is and what it does, and it's kind of keeping the wolves in, but that's neither here nor there. No, Dawkins is terrified of Islam. He said so many, many times.
Yes. Yep.
Historically, Christianity has been a kind of bulwark against Islam. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing has yet to be seen. But this whole thing with, oh, he's one of the horsemen, it's the same cherry-picking bullshit we've heard from every other argument. This one person says this one thing, so it represents all the things.
Yeah, and we're very aware that societies can live without religion because they exist in the world. There are very secular societies, like the Scandinavian nations. The Japanese are very secular. Like we understand this. It's not, it's not a problem. But I note that he's not actually addressing anything that Christopher Hitchens has to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Hitchens says this, but Dawkins says that. Okay,
well,
great.
his only address to the horrific things that the Catholic Church did in Africa was to say, hey, if those priests were atheists, they'd do horrible things to children. They're doing horrible things to children now. And maybe if they're atheist and realize that this life is the only consequence for me and didn't believe that they would get forgiven in the next one. Because don't forget, those priests still think they're going to heaven. That's the crazy thing. Because you can be forgiven for anything, including the most reprehensible stuff ever, including that. But if you go, well, this is my only life and I'm going to spend the rest of my life in prison, it doesn't matter that you're going to be forgiven in the next life. There is no next life to be forgiven in. And that is your life destroyed. You will die in prison. And that will stop a lot of people from doing what they're doing because they don't think that, hey, I'm going to get cookies and ice cream in the next one because I really am sorry.
Yeah, it's as our friend John Gleason from Godless Engineer says, is as long as you suck God's dick, he'll bless you with the holy splooges.
Well, it's more just your attitude on, what are the consequences for your actions? And they're very, very quick to say, well, the consequences are an eternity in heaven. But are those the consequences? Are they? Because it seems to me that all you have to do is repent and be sorry about it. And no, it's not the consequences anymore. The consequences is that you have to do repentance. That is the consequence. You still get your reward at the end.
I like to think our idea about building a better world might be a good reward. I don't know. I mean, I would like to grow up in a world that's nicer to people, that's kinder to people, that's more accepting, more helpful. You know, oh, you need medical treatment. Maybe let's let you access that, perhaps. You know, that silly things like that. And it sucks that we can't go back in time and make things better for people we've already lost because the world isn't as good as it could be, or the suffering that people we care about have had to endure because the world isn't where it should be. But we can make it better for those still to come, and that's something. Now I'm preaching. Haha.
Yeah.
Send in tithes.
Send your best tithes and offerings to Nild.
Dr. Tapioca Weasel member for 17 months.
Whoa.
Holy shit. Says consequence is all the subtweeting from neighbors.
Oh, yeah.
Those you
especially when you
trust
run
neighbors.
a Christian organization that does debates and you cheat on your wife with two workers. That's a lot of subtweeting there. What are you going to have to do? You're going to have to tell everybody you're quitting because the pressure of working too hard is getting to you. And I mean hard both figuratively and literally.
I just can't keep up. I'm taking pills to help out, and it's just not.
What a guy.
If God didn't want me to do it, he wouldn't have invented the little blue pills.
But it always happens, right? I remember one of my first debates was against this absolute trash, awful person called Smokey Saint. And it was about morality. And they take a high thing of morality. Oh, Christians have the moral values. Atheists don't have any moral values. And then they do just the most horrendous stuff. And I'm not even going to tell you what I found out that guy had done in the past. I'll just say that they won't be allowed near any school at any point in the future. And it actually, I didn't know about it. Nobody knew about it when I debated him. But then I think you sat there and told everybody how much better morally you were for believing in a God, knowing that you'd done that. How do you do that? This guy is sitting there talking about morality while he's cheating on his wife and abusing his power with a co-worker. How do you do that? It's incredible.
We love the double standards. And speaking of double standards, see, I am a professional. I can segue smoothly, especially when I interrupt. Yes. As you all may be aware, we here are secular folks. We don't prioritize any gods. We don't have any reason to believe in any of them. But we do have a goddess.
Oh, yeah.
A person who is demonstrably real, who has in fact been on this show with us, reviewing other times in other places. And that is the wonderful Maya Adkisson, who I am told is celebrating another revolution around the sun today. I mentioned this at the start of the show, but yes, yes, and praise and worship. Happy birthday, Maya. I'm sorry I don't have a weird song like Bree did. We can't all be that spectacular. Bree had a weird song. If you haven't seen today's Live from the Hive, go back and watch because it's a fun, weird song.
Well, I suppose that conversion comes better late than never. Thank you.
He didn't address
And a rebuttal from
anything.
Mr. Hitchens.
Yes. Look, I raced to the podium to try and emulate Larry's admirable terseness. Not my idea to have that bus, since I have to do this, not my idea to have that bus slogan. Actually, not the atheist's idea either. In Britain, which is still an officially religious country, which we have to pay to keep the Church of England going, and where, bizarrely enough, Prince Charles will become head of the Church of England on the day his mother dies. Islam fancying
Yes.
chinless.
Did you know that the
Simple.
head of the church in England is the monarch? Like, you want to say, oh, but the aristocracy, that had nothing to... No. There was a reason why in Europe it was called the Holy Roman Empire, even though the Pope and the Emperor actually disagreed on a lot. And I think he was excommunicated from the Catholic Church, but he was still the Holy Roman Empire, and he was the head of the church. So, yeah, inextricably interlinked is the feudalist aristocracy and the Christian churches at the time.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's part of how things came to be the way they are. Is as the Roman Empire was starting to lose power, certain personages of great influence realized that they could continue to unite the people politically outside of their failing polity. And the rising church realized that if they simply did that divine anointing thing, saying, oh, this ruler, this specific person is ordained by God to be king of Gaul or king of Prussia or whatever.
Yep.
It would be a mutually beneficial parasitic relationship on the people.
Yep.
And it worked for a very long time. In some ways, it still does.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of policies that, that have been, the authority for them has rested on the church, divine sort of rights to, say, take people's land and things, like that has, the church has endorsed and provided the moral foundation for doing these things.
Prima nocta comes to mind. Church endorsed. Your spouse is the property of your Lord because God says so.
Well, that wasn't very widespread. That wasn't really a thing that was implemented anywhere in particular. I don't think prima nocta was really, like, I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I don't think it was, like, I think it was in Braveheart, and like they suggested that prima nocta was implemented everywhere. It really wasn't, like, seriously.
It was presented in the film, which is where most people are familiar with the term from, but it was presented as an old tradition that had been scrapped because it's obviously immoral, but this one particular lord was going to bring it back for a very specific purpose. He wanted to get with one dude's particular, which is why William Wallace had to get married in secret, so the lord wouldn't.
I don't think any of that was true, to be honest with you. I think that was just for the movie. There was no prima nocta implemented in Scotland circa that time.
Well, damn it, Mark, next you're going to tell me that James Caviezel didn't wander around, being whipped to death while he was carrying a cross on his back on up to the hill of Calvary or Cavalry, or however the fuck it's pronounced.
Yeah, I think that movie is so historically inaccurate, like just ridiculously historically inaccurate. It's pretty terrible, in fact.
It did start a whole bunch of white nationalists on their alt-right journeys, though. So there's that.
Well, that's true. And I mean, the Scottish were very happy about it.
Oh, yeah. I'm such a weirdo. When I saw that movie, two things stood out to me. The attitude about weather. Oh, it's perfectly fine Scottish weather. It's raining sideways. I know I'm doing the accent wrong. I'm bad. And
right.
The scene... Not with the thistle. I think thistles are cool. Purple flowers. Obviously, they're magnificent.
Yeah.
But the scene where young William is living with his uncle, and they basically have like a stew pot with a really thick sauce in it and hunks of bread, and they're just dipping the bread in the stew sauce. And I'm like, that
Mhm.
looks amazing.
Yeah.
Which, you know, may have been a sign of something at an early. I mean, it wasn't
Don't you
garlic
make
bread.
stews? I like stews.
Oh yeah, stews
I
are
make stews.
awesome.
Yeah.
But like
I really like I make a pork and apple cider stew. It's really it's,
yeah, no, I love stew. It's just like, you know, all the other kids were watching it and they were there, oh, it's so romantic. He still loves her even all these years later. Or they were like, freedom, and like reenacting the battles and shit. And I'm over here like, I wonder if I can dip entire hunks of bread in spaghetti sauce.
yeah.
I was a weird child.
Why not? Why not?
No taste in women, Philistine, will become head of the church as well as the state and the armed forces. That's what you get when you found a national church on the values of Henry, family values of Henry VIII. In Britain, you can't put what you want if you're an atheist in a public advertisement. Advertisements have been circulating saying you're going to hell if you're not a Christian, spoiling people's day. It was replied there is no God, was the proposal. So forget all that nonsense and don't be frightened by it. You had to put in probably by law, which actually I think rather made the campaign in a way. But I don't know at whose expense this irony comes.
It did make it very British. I think Terry Pratchett played on that a few times. Oh, there's probably no God.
But it's wild that they're allowed to say in England that you're definitely going to hell if you don't believe in God, and that's fine. But you can't say there's no God. You'll be fine.
You'll
because
be
you have to say probably.
In the Tower of London, or you know,
wild.
beheaded. I wonder what the punishment is for that. It's probably just a fine, but
and this is what Alex O'Connor has sort of stated. These traditions that the people have in England and stuff, and some parts of Europe's sort of breaking free of it, but these traditional stuff in England really hampers the development and the progress of the country. You know, why have these things if all they're doing is stopping progress? Like, oh, it's tradition. And I don't see that as a valid reason why you're doing something. Like, if you say it's traditional, all you're saying is that's the way we've always done it. That's not a valid reason for doing anything. Like, we've got to have a better reason than, hey, that's what we've done all the time.
Yeah. So I'm looking up. Apparently, the blasphemy laws in the UK were abolished in 2008.
Yeah, 2008. That's insane. Yeah, so when I make stew, I put dumplings on top, just for the chat who's arguing about bread. Get this bread away from me. I do dumplings on top, and let me tell you, dumplings are amazing. Amazing.
Oh, I haven't had dumplings since I was a child. It's one recipe I never got from my grandma.
They're basically flour, butter, a bit of salt. You know, they're terribly bad for you, but I stand by it. Like, dumplings are the best.
Oh, I'm trying so hard to be healthier, and it's just it's the wrong time of year.
Do not look to me for help with that. Absolutely not. Like,
I know all you immoral atheists are such a bad influence.
Right. Well, you know what? I haven't been eating too badly lately. I've been having a lot of carrot and things like that. I've been doing salads. I do love a good salad. Bit of balsamic dressing on it, like just a taste of balsamic. It's good. It's really good.
Oh yeah, salads are amazing. I've discovered I like a lot of things recently. White chocolate, cherries, pineapple, bunch of stuff that I never liked before. And
is that the hormones sort of?
It's hard to say. I suspect, but I have noticed that, you know, as you go through life, your tastes sometimes change. Like at a certain point, 15 years ago or so, I suddenly liked iced tea. I didn't like it before. I hadn't had it for a few years, and then one day I had it and I liked it. So because I had it in my mind from years ago that I didn't like cherries and pineapples and things, I just didn't have them. Why would you have something you don't like? But once I noticed that because of the hormones, my tastes had changed in some other areas, I've been trying things that I have in my mind that I don't like and discovering I really like them. So it's a fun side effect because it's like I get to discover new things, totally unexpected things. Like who would imagine that pineapple is actually good? Like,
I've always liked pineapple. I've liked pineapple. Look, I like pineapple. I've had pineapple. I'm kind of going off pineapple, but I think I've had too much kind of thing, and I'm just taking a break. But the real money fruit for me is mango. Mango is so damn good, and it's so freaking awkward to get at. Like, seriously, cutting up a mango, there's a way to do it, and if you don't do it that way, you are in a world of hurt. Like, seriously, but mango is amazing. Just saying.
A lot of melons are, and Volpix says anecdotally from trans friends, estrogen does cause cravings for pickles and olives.
Mangoes are not melons; they're a stone fruit.
Are they? I must be thinking of something else entirely.
Maybe, I don't know. They're definitely a stone fruit. Like, I don't. What?
Now what the hell am I thinking of? I don't know.
Maybe cantaloupe. Like, because we don't call cantaloupe, and cantaloupe is the best melon. I won't hear any differently. If you think differently out there, you take that back right now. But we don't call it cantaloupe. We call it rock melon, and it's the best damn name ever because it looks like a rock. Pickles and olives. Oh, there you go. Yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, when estrogen starts to, like, hormones start to go on pregnant women, they have these urges, and I don't see why that would have any difference in somebody.
Hormonal shifts definitely cause craving.
Yeah.
What I meant to address with it, I got distracted on what the hell I was thinking a mango was. That's a whole sidetrack. As a person who really, really loved pickles before, it's not so much cravings. It's a bit of an understatement. As many of you know, I've been trying to adjust my diet for better health, and I've lost 150 pounds so far, which is pretty fucking cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah, but one of the things I'm watching is calories, and I've discovered pickles are 0 calorie. Turns out 0 calorie doesn't mean 0 mass, though. But in my effort to have lower calorie snacks so that I would feel hungry less often, I thought, pickles and olives might be good substitutes to like shut my stomach up in periods between meals. I cannot eat just a couple of pickles. If I have a jar of pickles, I am compelled from deep within the core of my being to eat all the pickles. The old Pringles commercials, you can't have just one, literally true of pickles and olives. Once I start, I physically cannot stop. Back on melons. Jester, the deposed Lord of Shenaniganery, apparently, sends $2. Thank you so much, Jester. And says, watermelon for the win! No take-backs! I hope I represented those numerous exclamation points adequately, because I could probably get a little louder.
Yes. Maybe.
Watermelon is really good. Good watermelon is really good. The mass-produced watermelons that we get in Walmarts and shit, they're shit. But yeah, okay. Good watermelons are c'est magnifique. One of the greatest creations. I often talk about how amazing technology is, and not just the science machines we're using right now. Agriculture, thousands of years, hundreds of generations put into creating these marvelous, magical, edible wonders like watermelon and pickles, for that matter.
Yeah, and then creationists come along and say, "Isn't it amazing what God did?"
I know. It's like,
are you serious? Immediately, Banana Man springs to mind. Ray Comfort. God gave us this banana. No, God didn't give us shit. We got the plantain and we bred it until it looked nothing like it originally did.
I know. It's the atheist nightmare. Oh my God, I'm so bad at, I gotta practice my accents. I've been practicing my own voice so much, I've completely lost the ability to accent. Fuck. The good news is my voice is getting better. Very slowly, but it is.
That example, frankly. In the name of religion is a cop-out. It is not in the name of the 12th Imam, that Shia and the imminent rapture that will come to all those who believe in him, that Shia Islam behaves in the way it does. It's because of that belief. It's not a perversion of the belief. It is the belief. All right?
Yeah.
Does the Bible or does it not say that the boy children must be marked in the flesh for the covenant, mandate for genital mutilation? Does the Jewish prayer of the Orthodox not begin or not begin? Every man must begin his daily prayers by saying to God, thank you, first for not making me a woman, second for not making me a Gentile. Women, in case you...
Oof.
Mm-hmm.
So as many of you know, my grandmother kept trying to get me into Christianity and it kept not working. But I was exposed to the ideas of Christianity. I was surrounded by them and inundated by them my entire childhood. So many a night it had crossed my mind to try praying to this invisible entity, and maybe it would work. And if it did, then I'd convert. Obviously, the supernatural power would be demonstrated. And you'll never guess what it was I prayed.
And God didn't come through. Just putting it out there.
Nope. I had to wait.
Maybe you should have prayed to Joe Pesci. Maybe that would have been better.
Or the dude, or I don't know.
You want to know? Have to pray, thank you for making me what I am. Don't you see how man-made this is? How so clearly tribal and human, in the baser sense of the word, are the origins of this cult? Don't you think you can see beyond that and maybe do a fraction better? I don't know either. I mean, it's up to Larry, of course. Redneck, as he says he is. But I don't know if I would have chosen this year to bring up the treatment of children in orphanages as a defense of Christianity. I mean, okay, if you like.
Yeah.
And I see I don't need to elaborate.
You know what I love?
But I will.
You know what I love? That he picked that up. Like I mentioned it when he mentioned it earlier. That it's you've done an own goal there, mate. Like that's not your goal, kind of thing. But Hitchens picks it up, had notes on it, and brings it up in such a just such a brilliant way, kind of thing. You know, even the guy had to laugh at it, but it's such a pointed and like he's basically, you know, flogging him to death with scented shoelaces right now. You know, like that one hurt. You could tell from his face that one hurt. He laughed, but that was a real hit. Man, I love Hitch. Just the way he does things is amazing. Just amazing.
No, I don't know specifically what Hitch was referring to with the you choose this year to bring up orphanages.
I think that's the year that we found out about all of, you know, because this has been ongoing for a while. I believe it started in Ireland where they found out of the abuses of priests that run orphanages. It's happened in America. It's happened everywhere. So there was, what year was this? What year was this?
2017, perhaps? Shoot, I just looked it up and then I changed to looking for mangoes. Yeah, it appears Larry published it on January 17th, 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So late 2016, early 2017, somewhere around there. Assuming he didn't sit on it for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I was looking for a specific news story that may have been like the trigger thing, and there's a lot. There's priest abuses.
You'll be looking forever, yeah.
There's an orphanage fire that killed 40 children. There's another. Shoot, where'd it go? There's so many stories, all from 2016 and 2017. So it's like maybe he's just referring to the abundance of horrible things coming out of the Christian orphanage systems.
Well, it had been going on for quite some time, right? Obviously, sort of dating back about 50 years ago, kind of thing. So all of this has been happening some time. The Benedict apologized and met with victims in about 2018. Oh no, that's about 2010. Okay. In January 8th, 2018, the Pope Francis accused victims of fabricating allegations. By April, he was apologizing for his tragic error. So all of this sort of happened around that time. But I mean, in a 2001, Pope John Paul made an apology. But yeah, I mean, look, any year you could point out these incredible travesties that the Christians are perpetrating.
Mm-hmm. Neglect is like the best case scenario. If you survived a Christian orphanage and you were mostly just ignored and underfed, you're, as fucked up as it is, you're one of the lucky ones, comparatively speaking.
Interesting. 2017, Australia had a royal commission into it as well. 1,100 complaints against the Anglican Church. Like that's the level that we're talking about. Like, it's just insane.
Yeah, it's quite a lot. Devian is asking about the residential schools scandal. That's a Canadian. Wait.
Oh no, that was very recent.
Yeah,
that was very recent. I did a thing on that. Yeah.
Yeah, because the Catholic orphanages with
so Devian, just
thing.
one thing. Nobody's saying they were murdered, right? Like nobody's actually saying these children were murdered in the Canadian orphanages. The mass graves, a lot of them were neglect and they just didn't report when the children died, basically. So no one is saying that it's murder. That's one of the things that they're putting about, that it's a mass murder. No one's saying it's mass murder, but complete neglect of the children, absolutely. There was one orphanage, this industrial school, that only 1 in 6 children made it through. I'm not even joking. I did a thing on Fundamentalist Fails about it because our friend, I can't remember his name, that horrible Catholic guy, was trying to do apologetics for it, and I was pointing out where it was wrong.
Horrible Catholic guy.
Yeah, that narrows it down, doesn't
it?
Narrows it down. Holdsworth, is it Brian Holdsworth?
Yes, our favorite sophist.
Yeah, absolutely.
What an absolute dick. So there's
Nathan Thompson hasn't.
So there's a few different things mixed in there. The mass graves, which they're being called mass graves, but they're not really mass graves. There's a lot of them, but they were all one by one kind of thing. But those are the residential schools, which aren't orphanages per se. They're where native First Nation children were ripped away from their families and forced educated. And that's Canada and the US. The Catholic orphanages had a whole different problem. Sometimes resulting in large amounts of deaths. There's some kind of horrible, unspeakable shit from the early 1900s about that, but mostly in recent years, it's been, the second worst thing you can do to a human being.
Yeah.
Yes, the sheer caucasity of Brian Holdsworth. Mr. Dunning and Mr. Kruger had a baby, and his name is Bigfoot. I mean, Brian Holdsworth. You know, same
Brian
thing.
Holdsworth. Same thing.
All the same, just for fun. You think it's okay? There are bad apples in it, bad apples in every barrel. Can happen in any institution that people take advantage of children in their care. I dare say that's true. I mean, in fact, I would have to see it's true. After all, we are members of a not particularly highly evolved primate species. That's what we know about ourselves. You can forget original sin, the problem of good and evil and suffering. All you need to know is that we are primates, and it shows. We're half a chromosome away from chimpanzees, and it shows. There's no mystery here. But I don't think it can be. I don't think it can be separated from the terrible way the church has treated the children in its care, from the teaching, say, of Pope Benedict, that the first communion inflicted on a child must be as early as possible, that it's based on a principle of as quickly as possible annexing and dominating the child. Actually, if you know of any religion of which that sinister calculation is not true, I'd be very interested to hear about it. Why do they not want prayer in the plains, for example, in America? Why do they want prayer on the factory floor, prayer in the trades, prayer on the stock exchange? You never know. No, why in the schools? Ask yourself that. You're halfway to seeing why it's man-made, why that's primate-made, and why that's all you probably need to know about it.
That is an amazing point. That's an amazing point. That's a really good point. Why is it they want prayer in schools? Why not prayer everywhere? Why aren't they? It's because they want to indoctrinate the children.
Mm-hmm. As they often say with their projection and other, you know, every accusation is a confession. But they say it on their own radio broadcast where everybody can hear. You got to get the children. Get them when they're young before they learn how to think.
Yep.
And all the apologists, they tell their followers to indoctrinate their children. They straight up front tell them. Jay, what's his name? That apologist I took down shortly after I started my channel. No. A little apologist who had just started a channel about the same time as me. Like we were 2 weeks apart. I made 2 videos about him, and on the second one, he did a version of the watchmaker argument that completely debunked Christianity. And I laughed at him about it. I'm like, I have never seen a theist not only fail to land his argument, but actually actively prove his religion is completely impossible.
Yeah.
Super job.
Awesome.
Yeah. I'm like, that was pretty fucking legendary. But he said right in his, I think it was the first video I covered, that it's the duty of every moral parent to raise up a child in the way that he should go so that he will not depart from that path.
Yes.
It's one of the things they say publicly and openly is you need to brainwash your children so that they will never question what they're told. They will never think
never
for
leave
themselves.
the church. Yep. Yep.
It's fucking wild.
We are left alone with our own responsibility to think. There is no fixed authority. There is no celestial, unanswerable court of appeal to which we can refer these questions. Our own responsibility cannot be taken from us. Don't trust anyone who, under any persuasion, tries to seduce you into giving that up. Thanks.
Oof. Yeah, so I want to point out that most of that was based upon his own, like, you know, bringing up the horrible things that priests have done. Like how, like, if you're in a moral argument of atheist versus Christian, I would not go there. Absolutely not go there. I don't know why you would.
Especially against Hitchens.
Right. He's not going to miss that.
Larry's seen him debate. He's booked him many times. Yeah. Why would he put that ammo on the table and then hand Christopher the gun?
Yeah. But like Hitchens is pointing out, yeah, that, you know, it seems to be people doing horrible things. And so you have, it also leads into this sort of problem of evil and the problem with the Christian doctrine of where morality comes from. Because so there's a problem here, and it's kind of related to the Euthyphro dilemma. So it's basically, well, if God is telling you what to do, then God isn't the source of morality. God is getting it from somewhere else. So the question becomes, where is God getting it from? Like you've just basically said, well, it could be subjective. God's just telling us what morality should be, and that's just a subjective opinion. At that point, you're sort of like, well, whoever's got the biggest stick makes morality, and you're just saying God has the biggest stick, or that you're getting it from his nature, for instance. Problem is that God's nature seems to be, as recorded in the Bible, killing children and destroying entire tribes, genociding people and genociding the world. That seems to be in God's nature. So, you know, but basically you're like, well, where does this morality come from? How are you imparted this morality? And some people say you read the Bible. Not a good idea as an argument, because if you read the Bible, a lot of horrible crap happens. A lot of really horrible stuff happens in the Bible, and not just Old Testament, New Testament as well. And the other way is, well, it's written on your heart. But then you have the question, well, how come these people who have read the Bible and have it written on their heart are doing such horrible things? There's a problem there, right? That the actions of the religious people are no better and sometimes worse than the actions of the atheist people. And from the atheist point of view, from a natural point of view, you're like, well, yeah, we're just another animal who exhibits social behaviors, you know, that we're trying to promote and get an understanding on how to make a functional society. That's the atheistic view. We are trying to make societies function for benefit of all. That's the sort of humanist view. But from the Christian worldview, you have these people who still do badly. Why? If it's written on their heart and they have access to the Bible, but it destroys his point that Christianity gives us some sort of moral foundation that sort of, you know, makes life better. I don't know how he argues that. We don't even have a Christian organization within society that makes, you know, that doesn't do these horrendous things, much less the entire society. I don't know how you'd argue that.
Yeah, you'd think if Larry's point were correct and Christianity made society, if not the individuals within it, objectively better, there'd be a way to demonstrate that. I don't know. I mean, there are obviously differences between the way Europeans do things and the way China does things, the way India does things, or at least India did things before it was conquered.
Yeah.
But they're differences, you know? It's not like one group had started. I mean, China had gunpowder, for fuck's sake, you know?
Yeah.
What are we talking about here? It's pretty crazy.
Well, China had gunpowder and generally used it for fireworks mostly. It took a Christian to invent guns and shoot people. And here's an interesting fact. Did you know that, you know what a Gatling gun is?
Yeah, it's the rapid fire gun. Are you talking about the protester?
What protester, sorry?
Oh, there was a thing a week or two ago where a protester had a Gatling gun that shot fireworks. So when the police turned the water cannons on the protesters, he brought out his Gatling gun and shot fireworks.
Was it a hand-cranked one?
No, he just like held it, and it like as each rocket fired, it spun the chamber.
Oh, that sounds incredibly dangerous. Like not just for everybody, like for him as well. I mean, you can imagine bringing on a Gatling gun and get shot. No, I mean the original Gatling gun was made in just before the Civil War, I think, and it had a hand crank, and you cranked this thing basically, like you rotated the barrel by cranking this handle. It wasn't a modern one, it was the original Gatling gun. The inventor actually created two types of bullets, round ones for the Christians and like square ones for the non-Christians, the Muslims and other people that he wanted to shoot, the pagans, which is hilarious.
Hell yeah. Okay, I found a video really quickly. It's a protester in Tbilisi. Found this on Newsflare, but it's like a TikTok video. There's a million different copies.
Okay. What the hell?
It looks like there's more than one person. Or maybe it's just lens flare.
Wow.
It's pretty special.
That is a lot of gun smoke right there. That's a lot of fireworks smoke right there. That's
Yeah.
incredible. Well, you know what? Yeah, I mean, I suppose it does remind the police that it could be something other than fireworks, like, you know.
Yeah, for real. I saw that I think it was on Dusty Smith's show where he showed that and it just because there's riots in Georgia, the country, not the state. Why we have to differentiate all the damn time. You know, the government of Syria's fallen and it just the whole world's going to shit. Maybe the Christians are right and it is the end times. Or maybe everybody's sick of these authoritarian assholes and their bullshit, and we're ready to just have a free world. Because ultimately, even if we do have a fair society, we're still limiting ourselves so very much. As I've ranted about before, the TLDR version is that we give all of our opportunities to the privileged people. Even, you know, we have social mobility to some extent. We can move up from being homeless to renting, or from renting to owning a small home. But
less and less, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a bit of a problem. But none of us are ever going to have the privilege necessary to work on general relativity or something like that. And so how many Einsteins and Pasteurs are stuck working factory jobs because they have to? So even in a generally fair and equitable society, we're still wasting 95+% of human potential, which is holding us back quite a bit.
Oh, sure.
And listen, atomic physicist playing with lasers for a job.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're kind of proving my point, though, Dr. T. Because you have the position to do the thing, and so you are doing the thing because you can. And I'm glad you are, because it's fucking cool. And somebody's got to do that science. But none of us who grew up with a different set of birth circumstances, no matter how brilliant, will ever have the chance to explore whether we have the potential for that, you know? And that's, we can do better. We can do a lot better. Damn it, I'm getting preachy again. Why am I so fucking maudlin?
I don't know. I don't know.
I know why.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. But
I liked that. I really did. I liked that the guy just stepped into it. Like, wow, you like, that was a hitch slap and a half. That must have hurt. I could tell that was hurt. I felt that from here, quite frankly. That was a shot and a half. Holy crap.
Yeah, he should have known better than to fuck with Hitchens. And on that note, that's plenty of Larry for today. But
yeah,
we're gonna have more Hitchens goodness for you next week. Mark will be doing a part 2 on this.
I will.
One.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because we're not even quite halfway, but I'm not sure how much further it actually goes on, whether there's like 20 minutes of Q&A or if there's wrap-up after speeches or something. We'll figure it out, folks. But it'll be fun. So make sure you're subscribed, not just here. Do subscribe if you haven't, obviously, but also on Mark's, because we go back and forth every week, and next week we'll be over at Mark's place doing part 2. It should be devilishly delightful.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. That was actually fantastic. I really enjoyed that. But yeah, and then we can do some other stuff. There was a suggestion that we do Silverman debates. I want to talk to you about that, but we'll see how it goes, because the next one we definitely want to do is the Alex O'Connor one against the Neckles, the 2 infamous Neckles.
The Nickel Draggers.
The Neckle Draggers, nice. Which, like the Neckers, you know, I don't know what Stuart is doing. Like his apologetics are something. They're something. I will give him this. He's better than his dad. His dad just gets so mad and preaches. It's kind of weird. It's sort of weird to me.
I will give Cliff some credit in that he doesn't give into that the same degree of creation-y bullshit. Like I listened to some of that debate, and just for a teaser for that upcoming show, there's a point where Cliff says, you don't look for science in the Bible because there's no science in the Bible. You don't look for intellectual philosophy in the Bible because there's no intellectual philosophy in the Bible. And he goes on this rant about that. And I you know, he believes some pretty horrible things.
Yeah.
But to his credit, he's at least honest about that.
Yes. Yeah, no, I totally grant that. Yeah. But that's a pretty low damn bar, you know, to realize that, hey, the Bible was written as a book of religion and not a book of science. It seems like a low bar, but a lot of theists don't clear it. You know, I guess that's I like inspiring philosophy for that, because he'll just go, yeah, it's a religious, it's not a book. But then you have idiots like Hovind who will go, no, it is a history book, and it's like, come on now.
It's so the fact they can't agree is just, it fucking tickles me. It's crazy shit. I mean, we have to laugh about it because the fact that we're in this situation, it is ridiculous that grown adults are crowing about their invisible friend that they all say everyone knows about, but none of them are getting the same damn message. Like, it's a laugh or cry kind of thing. So we're trying to, you know, educate about the issues, the ideas, the philosophy, how to go about the pluses and minuses of debaters' approaches. These are educational broadcasts, but we're also trying to take this horrible thing, this tragic state of the world, and bring some levity to it. I like to think that, you know,
you gotta laugh.
Yeah,
you gotta laugh.
No, and then we do kind of okay.
Well, it's just so absurd you can't, right? Like, some things are just absurd. In a way, life is absurd. You know, the whole cosmic joke, you know, that you're going to be here for a while and then leave. And it's just make a better place for as I said to Rabbit 80, the bar's lower than that for good old WLC. Like, seriously, his bar is it good to do that, and will I get something out of it? That's his bar of epistemology, which is wild. Like, that's the best they've got.
Machiavellian. The ends justify the means, and he just keeps digging. We got to get that bar lower, guys.
No, children dying in the flood was a good thing.
Murdered by the Israelites in the invasion of the Canaan. You know, the only way to protect those children from being murdered was to murder them first.
Yes.
Your God is all powerful, you say?
Yeah.
What?
Pity about the Iron Chariots thing. Yeah.
Shh. Don't give away Yahweh's secrets, or he'll chop down your maypole or something.
Get 2 she-bears to rip me apart. Oh no, that's children if they hassle me for being bald. That's what that is. That's what he reserves the she-bears for.
Yeah. Oh boy. Well, on that fun note.
Avoid she-bears, please.
That is sage advice. But thank you everybody for joining. For
Thank
all,
you.
all the various chats and super chats and memberships and also the so many contributions, both hilarious and academically valuable, like Deviant's paper I mentioned earlier, which if you didn't catch that, I've added a link on the references section of my website, betterthanember.com. So it's there. It's the paper about religious versus secular's generosity. I couldn't think of a better way to title it. I try to make the titles shorter so people figure you get it. You follow me. But yeah, that paper's from Deviant. Very cool stuff. And so many funny comments. I love doing these live shows because I love hanging out with you folks, and I love hanging out with you, Mark, because
Same.
you're awesome, and also you think of things that I don't think of. You see things in different ways than I see them, and it's really fucking cool.
Thank you, and you're awesome as well. Definitely, you think of things I don't think of, so that's fantastic. I really do love hanging out with you as well. I just got to make a joke in chat.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I mean the fact we can engage with the live chat, as I often say, that's the reason we do live shows instead of
absolutely
recording them.
Absolutely,
yes, for sure. I'm not only talking about Ember's hat game, though that is unquestionably top tier. I do need more hats. Like, I love this hat. This one's my favorite. And I do have a bunch, but the one I've been in love with recently, I forget how it came up, but the lead actress in Casablanca, I'm still bad with famous people's names.
Ingrid Bergman?
I think that's it, yes.
Is it
Ingrid Bergman? In Casablanca, she has this hat. People say it's a banded fedora, but it doesn't look like a fedora to me. Maybe I'm weird. But it's amazing, and I must have one. But yeah. Mostly right now, I'm focused on winter gear because it's winter here now. It's very snowy, and
it's very hot here. Like, seriously, it's crazy hot.
Yeah, I need proper boots. I'm okay with summer stuff because I already went through a summer. It just, I will see if I can find it really quick. Like, even though we're trying to end the show. Ingrid Bergman, Casablanca hat images, and I have to bring the screen back onto screen, don't I?
Is it like raffia or mesh?
It's it's
like a bonnet.
Yeah, kinda. It's
a flat bonnet. That's cool. That's really cool. I love what she's done.
You see what I mean? How it's like it's wide, but it's not I really like big hats. You may have noticed.
Hey, that one in the top left, that is a slouch hat, is what that is, with the side up, one side up. Do you know that's an Australian thing?
Is it?
Yeah, they do that in the Australian military. They have the slouch hats with one side up, and it's because in Australia, I don't know if you know this, it gets really freaking hot. So
I've heard that.
they had wide brim hats because it gets freaking hot. So, but the problem is their rifle, when they shouldered it, kept interfering with the hat. So they put one side, like they can clip it up, kind of thing.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's pretty neat. I'd wondered. So there's an improv troupe around here called Top Hat Solutions, and they do like that game from Whose Line Is It Anyway, where you do things from a hat, and they had a youth version. A juvenile troupe, I suppose, and they called it Slouch Hat Solutions. And I'm like, what the fuck is a slouch hat? Now we know.
Now you know.
Yeah. All right. So that's a fun. Yes, her hat is marvelous. Absolutely. Maybe
Very
one day
cool.
I'll track one down, but But for now, thank you all so much for joining. Thanks for liking, subscribing, all the things you do on YouTube, sharing, and, you know, being here to hang out with us, the most important thing of all. And let's see. I've been doing a thing lately where I try to steal other channels' outros because I find that amusing, but I forgot to prep one. So instead, I will just say, as always, remember, you don't have to hand Christopher Hitchens all the material he needs to obliterate your argument with, because you are better than religion.
Oh, super chat last second. Super chat last second.
Oh. Jester says $2. Thank you so much. Says Ember's hat is fantastic. Maybe I will steal the BSS outro. Thank you so much, folks.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Good night.
All right.